Good morning, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second day of the FAO 2025 Global Conference on Sustainable Livestock Transformation. I'm Thin Le Win, your moderator. If I could ask you to take your seats as we are starting the proceedings, that would be very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Now, yesterday, we focused on fostering change. Today, we're changing our theme a little bit. It is going to be about scaling innovations. We're going to be exploring technological, institutional, and social innovations that are shaping the future of livestock. But first, as always, a few important housekeeping messages. Please make sure that all your cell phones and mobile devices are on silent mode. We have interpretation in 6 UN languages. So this is also a request to all of the speakers to speak slowly and clearly to help our interpreters. 3, this session is being live streamed and recorded, and we encourage you to join the online conversation using the hashtag Sustainable Livestock. That's Sustainable Livestock in one word. Now, back to the program, and we are going to start the second day by hearing from people whose future is on the line, the youth. Can we get a video on Voices of the Youth, please? Thank you.
In 2023, youth gathered in Rome for the first ever Global Youth Dialogue on Sustainable Livestock Transformation to ensure young voices are included in shaping the sector's future. Their discussions led to the first youth statement and creation of the Global Youth Network on Sustainable Livestock Transformation. To continue this engagement, in 2025, the network launched Young Voices from the Field, inviting youth worldwide to share their experiences, challenges, and innovations in the livestock sector. More than 50 videos from 20 countries were submitted. Today, we share their stories, real voices from the field, reflecting the realities and aspirations of youth in the livestock sector.
I'm David Aisiwe, a 26-year-old Ugandan. Through an inspiration from my late uncle, who donated to me a piglet, since then I've been a farmer.
Mi nombre es José Miguel Rada Suárez, soy de la zona norte de Colombia, tengo 30 años, soy técnico agropecuario. Uno de los retos que enfrento a diario aquí en esta zona son los cambios climáticos, las altas temperaturas, el tema de las inundaciones que nos afecta mucho en el sector. Me gustaría que haya más tecnología y de fácil acceso, que haya más acompañamiento de parte del gobierno y que los pequeños productores ganaderos vayan más de la mano con el sistema ambiental.
I'm Liu Yuanyuan, 30 years old, veterinary public health PhD researcher from China. We are implementing precision nutrition tech, reducing the needs for antimicrobials on farms for sustainable agri-food system transformation. I'm not only a PhD candidate, but also an entrepreneur, providing farmers with better diagnostic technologies and services to combat hunger and antibiotic resistance and achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
This was just a glance into the lives and voices of youth across the livestock sector. Young people are not standing by, waiting for change. They're stepping forward, motivated and engaged, shaping the future of livestock with their voices, actions, and innovations.
We are not just rearing, but we are transforming lives and rural economics.
Livestock is in my DNA, so that inspired me to be part of the livestock industry.
Je rêve d'un secteur où les jeunes choisissent l'élevage pour l'innovation, la prospérité.
Spending time in the field has showed me how livestock means to their community, its food, its income, and its dignity.
I believe sustainable livestock transformation is possible.
Contributing more to a sustainable livestock production.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much for that video. Next, we have a keynote speech, but before we move on to that, I'd like to just mention 2 parallel side events that are happening this morning. Now, the first one is called Charting a Path for Sustainable Livestock Investments in Latin America. It will begin at 10 o'clock in the Iran room, and it's going to last for 90 minutes. There's a second side event, which is Tackling Tick and Acaricide Resistance through Surveillance and Diagnostics, from local expertise to global coordination. And that's going to be held at the Sheikh Zayed Center, and it will begin at 10:15 and last for an hour. Now, I'm delighted to introduce our keynote speaker, who will be setting the stage with a talk on technological innovations in livestock. He'll be talking about current trends, challenges, gaps, and prospects. It's my pleasure to welcome Jeroen van Hoof, President and Chief Executive Officer of Royal Jabos, Netherlands and Thailand. Jeroen, the podium is yours.
So, yes, good morning, everybody. My name is Jeroen van Hoof, President, CEO of the Royal Jabos, FAO Group, and more or less a trade show organizer worldwide. And I would like to thank you, FAO, for inviting us to be part of this important conference today. We are an organizer for a global exhibition leading in livestock portfolio. Our mission is to connect all stakeholders, industry, policymakers and research together in our platform to enhance industry and economy. We take care of our mission 365 days a year to build stronger communities all over the world. I would like to walk you through a journey with VIV worldwide shows in Asia, Middle East, Europe and Africa, and on what we see and find when we bring all stakeholders together in one platform. We are walking through the livestock exhibition halls with over 4,000 exhibitors and 138,000 visitors combined for all shows that we organize globally. We could feel the same energy, focus and direction. And we stopped by our main stage where experts are gathering to share the trend and the insight of the industry. It made me realize that new technologies are being scaled not just for efficiency, but for transparency, sustainability and animal welfare. The global livestock monitoring market size was estimated at $5.2 billion in 2024 and is projected to reach $14.8 billion by 2033, growing at a CAGR of 12.6% from 2025 to 2033. This rapid growth is a clear signal that transparency and traceability are not only consumer expectations, but also business imperatives. Factor number one is affecting demand. Consumers today don't just want extra chicken, they want to ensure how it was raised, how much carbon was emitted, and whether the animals were healthy. Factor number two is adaptation that's needed to cope with the climate change impact. What really stands out during the exhibitions and conferences is how the conversations, the talks and the business discussion all focus on how innovation is reshaping the entire livestock chain. In animal nutrition, we saw companies introducing insect protein, algae-based feed and functional additives designed to reduce antibiotic use. And this is no longer seen as a niche experiment, it's becoming mainstream. In animal health, the spotlight was on avian influenza control, gut health and new vaccine developments. But the real game changer lies in the push for digital veterinary solutions and AI-based diagnostics, which promise faster detection and more efficient prevention of disease. On the farms themselves, precision farming technologies are becoming the backbone of operations. Automated feeders, smart ventilation, and sensor-driven systems are now guiding daily decisions, giving farmers the ability to act on real-time data rather than intuition alone. And of course, sustainability, traceability are no longer buzzwords. They are market demands. Blockchain tools and cold chain innovations are being used to provide consumers with clear answers about where their food comes from, how it was raised, and its environmental footprint. From my own visits to farms in Asia and Europe, I can see farmers moving from trial phases to full adoption. Proof that these innovations are no longer distant promises, but realities shaping daily decisions. The global livestock digital technology market was valued around $4.8 billion in 2022, and it's projected to grow more than fivefold to over $25 billion by 2031. Yet in many regions, I've met farmers who still do not have reliable internet or access to basic sensors. This contrast is a reminder to me personally that innovation must be inclusive, or we risk leaving many behind because. We face a challenge in knowledge transfer. Too many farmers still lack access to proper training and localized support. This makes the divide between advanced and emerging livestock markets will only continue to widen and leads to more uneven adoption. While large integrators in Asia and Europe are racing ahead, smallholder farmers in many regions still struggle with the basics of digitalization. And finally, cost remains another barrier. Whether it's carbon tracking, automation, or ICT, these innovations often carry a price tag that makes it difficult for SMEs to keep up. And then there are policy gaps, regulations for novel feed ingredients, or the use of data and technology, often lag behind what's already happening on the ground. These challenges need stronger engagement with policymakers, both at the national and international levels, and more accessible training and in a small scale for practical implementation. Even so, the outlook is highly promising. From what we have seen at our events on VIV, in our opinion, 3 prospects stand out for the decade ahead. First, artificial intelligence is moving beyond monitoring into prediction. We now see platforms capable for forecasting disease outbreaks and modeling feed efficiency tools that can reduce losses and improve resilience. Secondly, sustainability is becoming the standard. The co-location of VIV Asia with MeatPro Asia and Horti Agri Asia demonstrates an overlap in solutions in packaging, waste management, and carbon offsetting are not optional. They are becoming core business strategies. And third, cross-regional collaboration is proving to be key to success. Our insights from Asia, Africa, and Europe all point to the same conclusion. Progress happens when the entire ecosystem, feed, health, processing, and policy works together. And this is exactly where platforms like VIV can make the difference, by creating the space for collaboration to happen on a global scale. By 2030, analysts project that livestock farming technology overall could exceed $15 billion globally. But what excites me the most is not just the market value. It's the vision of smarter, more resilient, and more human systems. I believe the real transformation will come when technology, farmers' knowledge, and consumer trust align. Ladies and gentlemen, I come to an end. It's that livestock innovation is no longer just about producing more. It's about producing smarter, safer, and more sustainable. In this journey, we see that innovations are here. The global demand is here, and what remains is our ability to close the gaps in cost, regulation, and knowledge, and ensure the solutions are scalable for all. And the good news is that we have a great foundation in collaboration between industry, policymakers and research. And that, I believe, is our greatest opportunity, that we as VFV can be connecting platform on this global collaboration. Thank you, and I hope to see you at VFV Worldwide very soon in November, maybe in Abu Dhabi, or in our beautiful, my hometown, Utrecht, the Netherlands, on VIV Europe in June 26. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hume, for those remarks, and what a great way to open the day with talking about technological innovations and the kind of exciting future that we have. Can I get the clicker? Thank you. Now, we're going to be switching the tempo a little bit. I don't normally stand behind the podium. You see me behind the podium. That's a sign that things are going to change a little bit, because we have a special session coming up on technological innovations for sustainable livestock transformation, One Health and animal health. Why do I say this is special? Well, because this is going to be the pitch talk session. Are any of you familiar with Shark Tank, Dragon's Den, all those? Can I get a raise of hands just to make sure that you're also awake? Yeah, okay, great. You're familiar. So we have actually selected some innovators who are going to be spending no more than 2 minutes each to pitch their ideas. I am going to invite them one by one to the front of the stage here, and then they will be giving us an elevator pitch about their ideas and their innovations. It is supposed to be short, sharp, and thought-provoking. There won't be time for Q&As because this is a pitch session, but most of them, they will be around today and tomorrow as well, so you can engage them in longer conversations. After their pitch session, there will also be a slide with their contact details, so you can take pictures of them and then find ways of communicating with them, even if you don't get time to speak to them now. Now, to our speakers, I have to be fair but very firm in terms of time, which means that if you haven't finished by the time the 2 minutes are up, I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut you off and tell you to stop. Now, to the audience, I'd like to request that you show your appreciation to our speakers. So please make sure to give a round of applause after each speaker. And with that, let us welcome our first speaker, Natasha Brown, technologist at AgNev in Ireland. Okay, Natasha, wait for my cue. Natasha, your 2 minutes start now.
Thank you. Agriculture today faces the dual challenge of increasing food production while reducing the environmental impact. Ireland's solution to this is AgNav, a new, innovative digital sustainability platform that supports Irish farmers to reduce emissions, increase carbon sequestration, and enhance water quality. What makes AgNav unique is the collaboration. Jointly developed by Teagasc, Borbia, and the Irish Cattle Breeding Federation with the support of our Department of Agriculture. This together brings scientific expertise, data, and resources to create a tool that farmers can really trust. Currently, over 16,000 farmers have joined the platform voluntarily. It's free to use and revolves around 3 simple steps: assess, analyze, and act. Firstly, assess. This is where farmers can receive their baseline figures for key sustainability metrics, including greenhouse gas emissions, ammonia emissions, and the nutrient balance. This gives one source of truth to farmers, really using Irish-specific models to receive their data. Secondly, analyze. This is an interactive decision support tool that allows farmers to see the impact of implementing different practices on their farm before implementing them in reality. And thirdly, act. This is where farmers can create their bespoke sustainability action plan. In addition, farmers can receive bespoke advisory support from Teagasc advisors. AgNav also forms part of major dairy beef sustainability programs, further enhancing sustainable action. AgNav is currently available for dairy, beef, and tillage farmers. However, we are continuously working to improve the diversity of farmers that can utilize the platform. Aligning with the UN Development Sustainability Goals, AgNav shows the alignment and commitment to sustainable and a viable agri-food sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natasha. Thank you. Did a great job. It's really hard being the first person to go, so that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, next we have Yimin Kai, researcher at the Japan International Research Center for Agricultural Sciences. Yimin, your 2 minutes start now.
Good morning. Nice to meet you. I'm honored to share our research innovation. So a major challenge facing livestock farming in tropicals is a feed shortage during the dry season. So crop residues are valuable feed resources, but many byproducts are plowed back into the soil or burnt. So how to use these resources? We have developed feed silage, total mixed ration, TMR, and composting technology with locally available feed resources. Also, to improve livestock production efficiency, we have constructed a livestock greenhouse gas monitoring system in Southeast Asia and successful develop green and low carbon livestock production technology. We have established a crop livestock integration model that achieve zero waste of agriculture byproduct resources through the TMR center and the compost center. We have achieved innovative results and contributed to the development of agriculture talent in developing countries. Finally, I would like to thank all our colleagues from Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Indonesia, Mozambique, Burkina Faso, and Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yimin. Perfectly on time. In fact, you didn't even need 2 minutes. We now have... Oh, okay. We now have Thomas Hu, researcher in animal parasitology at the Agronomic Institute of New Caledonia, France. Now, Thomas will be speaking in French, so some of those of us who needs the headsets, make sure you have it with you. Thomas, your 2 minutes start now.
Je viens d'un territoire français d'outre-mer, un paradis tropical, pour moi bien sûr, mais également pour la tique Rhipicephalus micropus. Mais alors que ce parasite représentait la principale menace pour les éleveurs calédoniens il y a encore quelques années, ce n'est plus un problème aujourd'hui. Que s'est-il passé? Au début des années 2000, le cheptel calédonien était principalement composé d'animaux de race limousine et charolaise, reconnus pour leur productivité et leur qualité de viande, mais également très sensibles à la tique. Et avec le développement des résistances aux acaricides, la gestion de la tique est devenue très compliquée. Dans ce contexte, des mesures incitatives ont été prises pour importer des animaux de race résistante à la tique. Ces animaux ont été croisés avec nos races locales pour augmenter la résistance à la tique, tout en maintenant un haut niveau de qualité. Entre 2011 et 2021, la proportion d'animaux de race résistante dans nos cheptels a augmenté de 0 à 70%, et durant la même période, la consommation d'acaricides a diminué de 70%. Bien, c'est un bon résultat, mais où est l'innovation? Continuons. Pour produire ces croisements entre les races sensibles et les races résistantes, nous avons dû maintenir des élevages de limousins et de charolais. Pour cela, nous avons développé 2 techniques, un vaccin et une méthode innovante, simple mais très efficace, de gestion des pâturages et des troupeaux. Cette méthode repose sur la biologie de la tique, et avec des exemples, des outils simples que nous avons développés, comme ce calendrier, nous pouvons prédire à l'avance quand et où vont se produire les infestations parasitaires. Et à partir de là, les éleveurs peuvent gérer leurs troupeaux pour éviter ces infestations. Nous avons réduit de 40% l'utilisation des acaricides dans les élevages de limousins et de charolais. Et avec l'ensemble des mesures complémentaires que je vous ai présentées, nous avons réduit de 70% l'usage des acaricides en Nouvelle-Calédonie, permettant de maintenir une pérennité d'élevage de haute qualité et le développement d'une filière biologique. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you very much, Thomas. Sorry if I cut you off. I'm just conscious of the time. We now have Schaten Locks, Associate Founder and Chief Operating Officer of Produzindo Certo in Brazil. Schaten, your 2 minutes start now.
Buongiorno, everyone. So at Produzindo Certo, we are demonstrating that sustainable livestock production can be both profitable for farmers and transformative for supply chains. Through the latter Impact Accelerator, with partners Textile Exchange, ACT Commodities, and 12 pioneering Brazilian farmers, we launched 2 pilots. And since 2021, we delivered over 300,000 verified leather credits, fully traceable, deforestation-free, and aligned with animal welfare standards, while protecting more than 90,000 hectares of native vegetation in the Amazon and Cerrado in Brazil. The strength of the model lies in 3 simple dimensions. It connects brand directly to verified impacts and rewarding sustainability in vulnerable ecosystems. It ensures fair compensations with farmers receiving premiums for each sustainable animal, and it reduces inefficiencies, channeling value straight to the source. Backed by Produzindo Certo platform, we provide robust MRV systems that minimize greenwashing and enables credible sustainability claims. Now imagine the same sustainability credit model applied not only to leather, but also to beef. This is Bovis, the Sustainable Livestock Consortium, enabling companies to support real traceable on-farm practices. Bovis can scale sustainable production across entire region, while also helping companies meet their decarbonization targets. The technology ready, the incentive model is proven. What we need now is partnership to take it to scale. Join us so that from the farm to the global market, livestock can truly drive sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Schaten. Thank you. We now have Colina Patterson, Executive Director of the Canadian Sheep Federation. Colina, your 2 minutes start now.
We're farmers who built this technology for farmers, and that's why it works. This isn't just a concept. It's an operational, national scale, livestock traceability and disease response system engineered as a next generation technology. We use blockchain for immutable audit trails, delivering fast and accurate verification. On that backbone, and starting with FMD, we've built disease-specific analytics that support regulators' plans by tracing exposure in minutes. And currently, we're designing a WOA-aligned HPAI module that is now underway. Coming next, people and vehicle monitoring that tracks site access with geofenced entries and exits, gate logs, and role-based permissions to strengthen biosecurity in peacetime and response under pressure. AgriLedger is being implemented as Canada's regulated sheep traceability database, anchoring the technology in a national system that demonstrates readiness, legitimacy, and scalability. We'll integrate GBAD's animal health envelope so farms, industries, and countries can measure animal health improvements as a sustainability metric. Supporting AgriLedger is FACEIT, our AI system for autonomous data collection. It eliminates data entry checkpoints and monitors welfare in real time. We're extending FACEIT for early disease detection, capturing subtle physiological signals pre-symptom, then combining that data with GIS and weather patterns to model risk and guide action. Together, these technologies move disease response from reactive to predictive, protecting food security, reducing emissions, and mitigating zoonotic risk at both a national and global scale. Ours is an invitation, not a pitch, to a country-owned system that strengthens disease response and that can collectively scale to advance livestock sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Colina. We now have Daniel Schwartz, Head of Milk Testing and Agri-Lab Business at FOSS Analytical in Denmark. Okay, Daniel, your 2 minutes start now.
It is clear we must produce, the agri-food industry must produce more with less. For that purpose, farmers need to have access to data. They need to. The idea here is that farmers get access to laboratory services, laboratories equipped with high precision, cost-efficient testing equipment, so they can send different types of samples there, get detailed information and actionable insights to then optimize production. The impact of this is significant. We have estimated a 5 to 10% reduction in the carbon footprint of milk production. And besides that, we could also see significant core benefits on the economy of a farm. The beauty of this is that the concept already exists in many regions around the world, and it has the potential to be scaled in further areas. At FOSS, we have almost 70 years of experience innovating and delivering analytical solutions to laboratories worldwide. And we are very happy to collaborate with you in making such a system available to every farm in the world, so every farm can start optimizing based on the right data needed. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Daniel. To the organizers, it seems some of the speakers can do it in 90 seconds. So maybe for the next Livestock Transformation Conference, we might want to consider that. No pressure. Thank you again, Daniel. We now have Maximilian Skladanowski, founder associate at Omega in Germany. Maximilian, your 2 minutes start now.
Hi everyone, my name is Max. I'm founder's associate at Omega, and we solve one of the biggest challenges in the egg industry. Every year, 7 billion male baby chicks are being killed globally. Now why is that? They are male and they are laying hen chicks. And as males don't lay eggs and they don't produce enough meat to be profitable for the poultry industry, they get killed on the day they hatch. And this practice is a waste of 2.1 billion euros of resources every year. Now, the good news is, we at Omega, we developed a solution that can determine the sex of chicken embryos early, non-invasively, and at a low cost point, making sure to end this problem on a global scale. Now, how does it work? To get chickens to hatch, you put eggs into so-called incubators. Those are little rooms that have a steady high temperature, and the eggs stay in there for 21 days. Now, we put our technology into those incubators, assuring no additional space is required. And now, for the first 6 days of incubation, our measurement device measures every egg. And by measuring, I mean shining light on the egg and measuring what comes out of it again. With that data gathered, we then put it into our AI algorithm, which then can determine the sex of the chicken embryos at the end of day 6. Now, with our technology, we not only can reduce animal cruelty, but also maximize the capacity of our customers. Thank you very much. If you're interested to learn more, meet me at the coffee table.
Thank you very much, Max. Okay, we now have Ashish Sonkusare, CEO of Everse.ai Private Limited in India. Ashish, your 2 minutes start now.
Hello, good morning. I am from Everse.ai. We basically operate in India on the smallholder dairy farmers. So amongst the other products, we launched 2 products I'm going to talk about. Cow GPT was launched 2 years back. Just within the launch of few months, we got more than 1 million users using it, and most of them are smallholder dairy farmers. The beauty of this application is that It is available on WhatsApp, which is a very easy to use interface. And the application is available in multiple Indian languages like Bengali, Marathi, Gujarati. And it's very interesting because in India we have more than 90 million smallholder dairy farmers, but not enough weights and paraweights, providing very easy and simple advisory and insights to farmers. So farmers can ask simple questions like, my cow is giving less milk, what can I do? The udder is looking pink, can it have mastitis in future? Right? It can also upload the picture of muzzle, the udder, and gets very specific insights and advisory. So this was an instant hit. We got a lot of awards on this product. There's also a case study which is happening across multiple universities on how to make the AI very effective and very simple for smallholder dairy farmers to use. It's a very interesting product. Please have a look at it, and this is also available globally. The second product which we launched very recently is all about methane. This again is more targeted for academicians, researchers, scientists, again available globally, launched just last week. But it will tell you everything about livestock methane, the sources, the impacts, the mitigation strategies, do some what-if analysis to compare the cost and the impact of mitigations and stuff like that. So again, along with this, we have been collecting a lot of data from a lot of sources, which are like satellites. We have collaborated with universities in the US and also globally to source some of that data to again train the model specifically for methane emissions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashish. We now have Marzo de Velle, cluster manager at Lely in the Netherlands. Marzo, your 2 minutes start now.
Good morning. So feeding our growing world population with healthy, nutritious food whilst caring for our environment, animals and the farmers, this sounds like a challenge, right? At Lely, we think that innovation is key to a sustainable, profitable and enjoyable future in farming. Our philosophy is simple. The cow is the center point. By designing our products around the cow, instead of the other way around, we believe we can change those challenges into opportunities. This started with the milking robot, which we were the first to introduce back in 1992. Instead of having to wait for the farmer, the cow herself decides when and how often she wants to be milked. At every fully automated milking, the robot generates over 150 data points, giving the farmer more insights into the cow's health and productivity than ever before. Or take our more recent innovation, the Lely Sphere. The Lely Sphere is a circular manure handling system designed to separate mineral streams and create value from emissions. It separates feces and urine and converts nitrogen emissions into a valuable liquid fertilizer that can be used for precision fertilization, replacing traditional artificial fertilizer. This can contribute to an improved environmental footprint and more farmer prosperity. We are excited about this next step in circular farming. The potential for robotics in dairy ahead is fantastic. We believe that with the responsible, sustainable growth, these technologies will bring a positive impact to more and more farmers. So, please join us in the flag hall and visit our stand to see the life-sized milking robot Astronaut A5 Next, the Juno feed pusher, and meet our passionate Lely colleagues. Let's explore together how innovation can shape a sustainable, profitable, and enjoyable future in farming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marzo. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Our last innovator is John Ugagwu, Senior Lecturer and Founder at AgroMill Solar Pro in Nigeria. John, your 2 minutes start now.
Yeah, I'm here to present to you our automated solar micromilling machine for poultry feed production. The poultry industry is worth $4 billion in Nigeria and about $20 billion in Africa. Nigeria's poultry farmers struggle with expensive feed, which limits output. As we speak today, between 2023 and 2025, more than 20% of poultry farmers have closed their farms because of high cost of feed. So our solar micromilling machine cost, ensures quality feed, and is environmentally friendly. And this empowers Nigeria's smallholder farmers sustainably. The value propositions for this product are: one, it's cost efficient because it reduces production cost to about 20%. It's energy independent. It draws its energy from solar and generates power to the machine. And this is sustainable in feed production. It increases output of feed production to about 60 to 70 kilograms per hour. So for smallholder farmers, it can produce about 350 to 400 kilograms of feed to serve their daily need. So this also helps in job creation for our youths who are majorly unemployed in Nigeria and in Africa. It reduces carbon footprint because it is solar powered, so there will be less smoke in the air. It helps in waste management because most of the resources we have, waste, can be converted into feed. And also reduces carbon footprint. And lastly, it ensures food security in Nigeria and in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. Now, can we give another round of applause to our innovators, please? Now, I'm going to leave this slide up for a few more seconds because this provides contact details and information of all the innovators who've just spoken. So if you would like to chat to them, please take note of their details. They will, again, like I said, they'll be here today and also tomorrow. So please seek them out and talk to them and better understand their technological innovations. Now, we're going to move on from the pitch session to a panel discussion. And to guide us through the next discussion on unlocking innovation in the livestock value chain, I'd like to hand over the reins of the chair to Peter Ettimer, Principal Advisor at the Ministry for Primary Industries in New Zealand. Peter?
Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to be able to moderate this very important panel around unlocking innovation in the livestock value chain. We've heard a lot yesterday about the size of the challenges and this morning about the size of the opportunities that exist in the technology and innovation space. So today I want to have a conversation about how we unlock that to enable us to achieve what we all want to achieve in feeding more people in a much more sustainable way. So I'd like to introduce my panellists, please. First, I'd like to introduce Charles Brook, who's the Program Lead in Enteric Methane for Spark Climate Solutions in the United States of America. That's a relief. I was wondering where you were, Charles. Second, Bruno Lette, Secretariat of Innovation, Sustainable Development, Irrigation and Cooperativism, the Ministry for Agriculture and Livestock in Brazil. Next, Nguro Adi Sasongo, Director of Research Centre for Sustainable Production System and Life Cycle Assessment at the National Research and Innovation Agency in Indonesia. Manish Shah, the Chairman, Managing Director for the National Dairy Development Board in India. And finally, Geron Schultz-Uthoff, Chief Sustainability Officer for Premium Food Group and Lead Climate Platform for Livestock Farming in Germany. Please welcome the panel. So as with previous panels, we have a series of questions that I'd like to ask each of the panellists. But one of the things that heard from some of the feedback from yesterday is really important. There's an opportunity for everyone in the audience to be able to ask questions towards the end of the session. So hopefully we'll have 20 minutes left at the end of the hour where we can have an open discussion. So if you have any questions, please feel free to answer those when we get to it. So welcome everybody. Lovely to see you all, and yeah, great to be part of this process. First question for you, Charles. In your role, what do you see as the greatest challenges to roll out the solutions mentioned to pasture-based animals and the millions of smallholder livestock farmers, particularly in lower income economies?
Thank you very much for that question, Peter. And again, thank you all for having me here to talk about these issues. Really, most of my focus has been on enteric methane and enteric methane mitigation. And, you know, I think the issues that we face in the technological adoption piece of these, it really does stretch across the different technologies, whether looking at one sustainability initiative or another. But predominantly, I think it really comes down to having the solutions that are tailored to the specific production systems. We can have a market pull, we can have interest in developing technologies, but if they are not specific to those production systems, we're not going to get them by chance. And we see this a lot in enteric methane. We can have feed additives, which if you're able to access an animal every day, twice a day, you may be able to have that impact. You may be able to reduce those emissions, but that's not going to work for most systems. If you're not going to see that animal for weeks, months at a time in some instances, we need to be able to tailor innovation and technology development to the systems that we know need it. So with that, I guess the other piece of that is going to be priorities. And where do we put our limited resources, especially in the developing economies, in those systems in which if I can't, formulate a proper ration, what business am I having deploying another feed additive that might not bring me any production value to my system? So we need to really be targeted about what types of technological innovations we need, where they need to go, and where that fits within the priority framework for those production systems.
Thank you, Charles. Yes, I agree. Certainly the importance of tailoring specific production systems, certainly for a country like New Zealand, or in any other country is very, very important. So thank you for that. Bruno, for you, Brazil's livestock sector is a global leader with extensive pasture-based systems dominating beef production. These systems, while productive, face sustainability challenges such as pasture degradation and deforestation pressures. Can you please share a specific example of an innovation you have successfully implemented in Brazil that supports the sustainable transformation of the beef sector at scale? Thank you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Peter, for the question. Well, contrary to what many might think, Brazil became a global leader in the beef sector based on strong policies of research and innovation. It's worth to remember that until the 80s, Brazil was a net food importer. That includes beef. We import beef from chicken, we import pork. So based on these innovations that we became this leader in the beef sector. And broadly speaking, I will indicate 3 innovations that we are using since the 80s until now and is still implemented in our country. First of all is pastures. Unlike our neighbors in Uruguay, in Argentina, we don't have high quality pastures in our land. So we have to develop, to find the grass, the pasture that would be more suitable for us. We have climate condition to extensive beef production, but we don't have pasture. So it was in Africa that we found the brachiata and the panicles that were suitable for us. So each year we develop and improved this species that until today we deliver every year new, new varieties that the producers are eager to receive these new varieties adapted to the biome, to the climate, and specific production systems. The second one are the animals. The European breeds that came with the Portuguese when they arrived in Brazil shows that it's not suitable for our climate. So it was in India that we found the animals that will build our beef sectors. The Nelore and other Zebu breeds came to Brazil, and we start a big program of breeding of these animals. So today we keep exchange with our Indian partners to keep improving this the genetic of these animals. And the last one is the integrated systems. As a tropical climate, we can produce all year around. So we can, what is very common in Brazil today is to integrate crop and livestock. So we can reduce the need of fertilizer, we can increase soil health, we increase farmer income, and nowadays we are having the implement of the integrated agriculture, pastures with the livestock, of course, and forests for commercial or agro-civil pastoral. With that, we can sequestrate carbon, we can increase animal welfare, and diversify the producer's income. So this innovation may not sound futuristic, but it's the backstone. It's the backstone of the transformation of Brazilian livestock. As a result, beef production has grown by 150%, while the herd increased only 30%. And the pasture land had been reduced by 14.6% since the 90s. So the key point that I want to highlight here is that it's not a privilege from Brazil. We are losing farmers. I think that is globally a problem. And when we look at the farmers, there is a big gap between the most efficient and the less efficient. And when we see this increase in production in Brazil, this is pushed by the farmers that adopted this technology. So the great transformation that I think that we should pursue is the inclusion. We have to bring more farmers on board. That we can, our challenge is to bring these farmers so that livestock can be sustainable economically, environmentally, and socially. So I think that it's our message that we became this leader in the beef sector. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you, Bruno. And I think it reminds us all that there's no one answer to the question of productivity and sustainability. It becomes a package of things. Next, Manish. India, coming from the world's largest producer of milk, primarily through smallholder systems, you have implemented a wide range of innovations to increase productivity and livelihoods of rural families, including smartphone apps for farmers, biogas production from manure, and more. What specific innovation have you seen or implemented that holds the greatest potential for scaling across India's landscapes?
Yeah, thank you. I think, as you have already told, India is the largest milk producer, and we also have the largest number of animals. So both cattle and buffaloes, if you see, our population is 300 million, and that poses a challenge on the methane emission and all the issues which are aligned with the methane emission. So what we have done is, last few years, we have made some innovations to mitigate the methane challenge. We started with the ration balancing program for the animals, because we do not have the large farms where you are able to prepare the total mixed ration maybe for the animals. So we started advising the farmers. First thing what we do was analyzed all possible feed ingredients which were fed to the animals throughout the country. So different parts has a different feeding ingredient, and we analyzed all, put them on the portal, made a app and also the software, and basis the list cost formula, the app or the portal can advise the farmer to balance the ration at a list cost. And that helped us to reduce the methane emission by almost 14 to 15%, both in cow and buffalo. So that was our first significant intervention, and we covered almost 3 to 4 million animals in the pilot, and the pilot was very successful. Now it's also included into the the National Digital Livestock Mission. We have the app called 1962, and farmers are using this app, using the portal for balancing the ration themselves. The second then initiative which we took was, of course, the manure management initiative, because again, 10 to 15% of the methane is emitted through the manure. As we all know, the manure or the dung has the potential of both fuel and fertilizer. And therefore, considering the large number of animals we have, we started developing a value chain for this dung or the manure. And we started giving small capacity biogas plant, 2 cubic meter at the farmer's backyard. So the farmer having 3 to 4 cattle can easily get the biogas for taking care of the cooking for almost 5 to 6 numbers in the family. And that gave us a lot of positiveness, and we started replicating these numbers, and almost today we have set up 35,000 biogas plant by NDDB alone at the level of the farmer's backyard. We also set up the cooperatives of these beneficiaries of the biogas plant, which started taking the slurry, dung and water, and producing the organic manures. So apart from the mitigating the methane, we are also taking care of the land fertility by usage of the organic fertilizer, and almost 25 to 30% chemical fertilizers are now replaced with this organic fertilizer. Then looking at the benefits what we got, we also started centralized model, a large capacity biogas plant. So we have now set up 4,000 cubic meter biogas plants, where the biogas produced is further purified to get 95% methane level. It is compressed and used for the vehicle mobility. And we are in process of setting up such 25, 30 plants. 5 or 6 plants are already ready, and remaining plants are at various stages of implementation, which will again have a lot of compressed biogas production. And government has enabled us by making 1% blending of compressed biogas into the compressed natural gas. The second alternative for the large capacity biogas plant which we have worked out is using the same biogas for the thermal energy, for example, in the dairy plant. And although the process is same, raw biogas is directly fed to the boiler. It replaces the furnace oil as a standard fuel, and then you are processing the milk with the the thermal energy produced from the biogas. And again, the resultant slurry is used for organic fertilizer. So these are, I think, some of the initiatives which are picking up in India, and we hope that both these initiatives together has a potential of reducing the methane emission by almost 25 to 30%.
Thank you, Manish. This sounds very interesting. I'm particularly taken yesterday at our Leapside event. There was a lot of discussions around circular bioeconomy and ecosystem services, and what I've just heard you talk about is that in action, particularly looking at the manure and using it for a range of different uses beyond the farm gate. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ngurahau, for you. So your questions. This is around circular bioeconomy innovation in Indonesia. So what is the most promising circular bioeconomy innovation you believe could be scaled up in Indonesia's livestock sector? And how would it balance environmental sustainability with the economic realities faced by smallholder farmers?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Chair, distinguished panelists and colleagues. Indonesia is smallholders country for livestock system. Most dairy and our beef come from small farm. Domestic milk still cover about only 16% of our total demands. So every extra liters matters for our nutrition for reducing import. So in 2025, demand is rising with the school nutrition meal plans. We call it Makan Siang Bergizi. So this is a chance to live local productivity and income together. So smallholder health are small, often only 2 until 5 cows per one family, with the average milk yield around 10 until 15%, 10 until 15 liters per cow per day. So on the smallholder system, it's lesser, very low compared to modern farm, is higher in compared to New Zealand. So we can close this gap with the better feed and waste to economical value. But in terms of the example of scalable innovation stand out in Indonesia, we have, we'll deliver 2 activities here for the example. We call it the first one, SISKA, System Integrasi Sapi Kelapa Sawit, or we call it Cattle Oil Palm Plantation Integration, with the pilot plan in several provinces in Indonesia, for example, in East Kalimantan, in one of island in the middle, and some other provinces, where Indonesia now has reached 17 million hectares of the oil palm plantation, so the biggest in the world. And under the palm, cattle grass nutrient gaps are filled under concentrate station, where manure goes back to the soil, and the palm oil meal effluence goes to the biogas. The empty fruit bunch plus fronds become the feed after simple treatment, for example, fermentation. Our study showed that the strong economic benefit cost ratio between 1.35 up to 2.67, and internal rate of returns up to 29%, depending on the models. So currently about the 40% of the oil palm plantation in Indonesia is smallholder managed. So cooperation between estate and then the farmers can make SISKA inclusive. So the other things that in the same time Indonesia begins to integrate smart climate agriculture technology into these bioeconomic models. So we use the artificial intelligence. The second innovation that we propose and we implement in Indonesia currently in the several years is pineapple waste valorization. So we have one of province in Indonesia in Sumatra, southern part of Sumatra, where this province is top pineapple producers, one of the biggest in the world, with the processor handling about 2,000 tons of fresh fruit per day of the pineapples, more than 500,000 tons per year. So pineapples by product, peel, cores, crowns, leaf are about 50 until 60% of the fruit weight. So these fibrous residues can be remnant feed to save costs and avoid methane from dumping. So this is the big steady feedstock for smallholder near the plant. So why these 2 activities are working for the smallholders? The first is lower cost at the first, cheaper feed and energy, and add new revenue organic fertilizer, biogas power, possible black soldier flies, larvae for proteins. The second is heavy step, chopping, pretreatment, digester, operation, quality assurance, sit just next to the factory, and we can go for the cooperative, small and medium enterprise, side by side with the factories. And then the third is the scale on the existing logistic. So we can use the value chains, the logistic, the supply chains from the palm oil mills and pineapple at the factories. And then the biogas from palm oil mill effluent can achieve high COD, chemical oxygen demand removal up to 90% and significant metal yields. Co-digesting between palm and cattle manures, leaf gas output and system stability, and reduce the carbon footprint, increase the climate resilience and cost win. So the message are there are major intervention with the corporate anchoring and the structural logistic. Other measures are genetic improvement. We also do that. Black soldier fly farming, small biodigester, stay valuable, but the secondary when the land is small and had less than 10 head per one family for farmers. Our proposal, the activities SISKA and then the pineapple sap are very good at the moment and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Negoro. And I think it really reinforces the importance of relationships with farmers and other parts of the business in the areas. So thank you. The last member of the panel, and just remind everybody that I really want questions from the audience after the last speaker, please. So Gerion, for you, in Germany, you played a key role in the private sector's development of a new web platform that enables farmers to assess the carbon footprint of their livestock, benchmark against industry-wide data, and identify mitigation strategies. Can you share your experiences with the platform's implementation so far and the feedback you have received from users? Additionally, how do you envisage this tool contributing to the sector's ambitious greenhouse gas reduction targets? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for being invited on this stage. And I really want to first congratulate and also thank the FAO for bringing livestock as being in the cornerstone of circular economy and producing more with less inputs into the global arena and into the public debate. Thank you very much. In this regard, yes, what have we done? As being the market leaders in meat production in Germany, we invested in a tool as a prototype that assesses climate efficiency of farmers and benchmark it against others. But we didn't stay in a proprietary system. We set the push in order to develop industry-wide systems. Why do we believe in an industry-wide system here? Because we see that trust of consumers, trust of the public sector, trust of the NGOs and the stakeholders can only be given if we set up neutral platforms that calculate CO2 emissions and bring farmers as showing and transparent what they achieve and how they can perform better and better and better. And in this regard, we are very happy that the sector followed us and that we could develop together with public partners, with research, with innovators from IT, a system that is now available for all. It took some more time, but we really believe that sector approaches are much stronger than private proprietary approaches in this regard, because we need to make it transparent that farmers are able to really produce more with less and really are able to transform our sector as being one of the key solutions for circular economy and the provision of high nutrient proteins. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerion. Well, as promised, we've got plenty of time for questions. And so I'd like to say thank you all to the panel first for your contributions. It's very interesting and very important messages around unlocking innovation. So thank you. So I'd like to open the floor, please. I have other questions, but I don't want to ask them. I want to hear them from you. There's one over in the corner. Could I have a microphone over there, please? If you could state your name, please, before you start. Thank you.
Hello. George Sorensen, Seaver Animal Health. My question's for Charles. So on the subject of enteric methane inhibition, now we have products that are on the market or close to market that can offer, say, 40 to 90% reductions in enteric methane in cattle and small ruminants. If we assume that there's limited to no productivity gain on these products, how do we encourage adoption, particularly in L-mix, where they're not part of a Scope 3 emissions reduction scheme, for instance?
Thank you, George, for that question, because it is really important. I think we have to clarify that there are technologies available today and in some systems. It comes down to the economic and technical feasibility of getting them to where they need to go. But the reality is sometimes that technical feasibility mounts, and it really is an insurmountable barrier. But without value, we either have to create value, create a market system in which the reduction, the outcome of that it produces something for the farmer. The reality is any of these innovations cost money. They cost time. It is a burden on the producer to some degree. We can try to innovate and reduce that burden to the greatest degree possible. But if this is something that the producer is saddled with without some sort of return from the market ecosystem, whether that is the consumer all the way down to the end of the line and ensuring that that value is translated all the way back to the producer, that can happen. But we're not seeing it yet. We're not seeing it as strong as we need to. And we're not seeing that targeted for the innovations that are going to be necessary for the low and middle income countries. So what I would say on that remark is, let's build the market signal necessary for the innovations for that system. And if we could do that, we will enable those technological innovations to drive forward. We'll see more investment from private equity and venture capital and existing companies that have the know-how, the reach, and the global distribution systems currently today. We will see them get involved as long as that market signal exists. So thank you for that question, George.
Yeah, in this regard, I really see what is fundamental. Fundamental is a measuring tool that really forms a baseline which allows innovations to be visible and then marketable. With having a baseline, and as a sectoral accepted baseline, at least in Northwest Europe, we need like sector approaches there, so that you can really go to the retail, go to the end consumer and say, hey, here I have systems available, I have tools available, I have innovations available that allow better than other. So to able to discriminate, and good baseline, transparent baseline emissions measurements are key for that. And I strongly believe that we have a good future of unlocking the potential of these innovations and really market them in future in order to gain money with it with lower emission meat. Thank you.
Thank you. From Brazil, please.
I'm Julio. I'm former vice minister in Brazil. I'm speaking Spanish for Bruno. Brasil, como usted mencionó, inicio del programa de la restauración de pastizales degradadas para recuperar 40 millones de hectáreas degradados. Con estas áreas dejan de ser emisoras y se convierten en secuestradoras de carbono. Además, contamos con el programa de integración de cultivos, ganadería y silvicultura. ¿Cómo usted puede nos explanar un poco sobre esta integración?
Thank you, Jules, for the question. I speak in English because my Spanish like a portuñol, entonces.
Could you please just repeat the question?
Oh, sorry?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes.
I didn't get it. So.
No, he's asking how I can explain, because in Brazil we have a national plan to recover degraded areas.
Yep.
And it's areas that is already open in the past for pasture. And nowadays, these areas have some level of degradation. So the government in Brazil are seeking investors to give incentives for the producers to recover this land. So we do not need to open new areas for agriculture and for livestock. Instead of that, we are going to produce in these areas that is already open and have some level of degradation. I think that the main thing about this program is that as we are a tropical country, we have sun and water during the whole year. We can use the agriculture, forestry, and livestock simultaneously in the same area. So we can reduce the cost of to recover these areas. So these areas, instead of emitting carbon as a degraded land, we can assure that with good pastures and good crops, with no tillage and with forests also forests in these lands, we can sequestrate carbon in the soil, in the forest, and we have the cost of recovery is much more easier because we're going to have more income come from the farmers. But to do that, we need money. The farmers need money. So the challenge of this program that we are doing is to catalyzing foreign investments that they can go to Brazil, send money to these farmers, so they can start the program to recover these degraded areas. So we can still produce more with less, as we are saying here, and no need to open new areas. So I think that the technology we develop, mainly from Embrapa, that you know that we can use the adapted forests, adapted crops, and adopt pasture in a tropical and for our soil. So as you also mentioned, there is no site fits all. So we have to adapt to our climate, to our soil, and recover these areas. So we're gonna reduce the emissions for these areas, don't need to open new areas, and produce more with less. That, broadly speaking, is that.
Cool, thank you, Bruno. Michael.
Thank you, Peter. Michael Lee from Harper Adams University, representing the Global Farm Platform and Animal Task Force. A question for the whole panel. It's great to hear about interventions reducing emissions, but of course, net zero is a fallacy if also we're not removing carbon. And we talk about baselines. The vast majority of carbon removals is still tier 1 assessment. So when are we going to get the innovation and the finances to better improve assessment of carbon removals in our farming systems, particularly when we're looking at innovative grasses like brachiaria, or we're looking at unusual soils, particularly in Australia and other parts of the world, particularly in terms of African soils? Thank you.
Who'd like to? Yeah, Charles, you go first.
No, I think that's a great question because it really underlines the fact that we value measurement inappropriately. We do not set the value on measurement currently in the private market, and so we're not able to translate and drive innovation for the measurement necessary. So if you look at our getting countries from tier 1 to tier 2, the only way that in the tier 1 system that they can reduce emissions by reducing the number of animals. And, you know, that is just not on the table for most of these countries. And so moving them to tier 2 gets them the opportunity to access global finance while improving production systems, improving overall production and livelihoods in that really in specific contexts, within the geographic context in which they produce. And so right now, you know, in a methane, from the methane perspective, our ability to measure is not great. And unfortunately, what we've seen today is trying to minimize the utility of measurement in favor of modeling, which modeling can do great things. It's done great things globally, but we cannot stop driving forward on the use of practical measurement on farm. We run into the same things we run into for deploying strategies like we do in New Zealand. It's very difficult to get some of these products to grazing animals or pasture-based animals. It's even harder to measure them in those contexts. And so if we want to provide high-value emissions reductions that the market will acknowledge, then we can't get away from the fact that we will eventually need to move towards better and better on animal measurement. I'm not saying that we're going to need to measure every animal, but I am saying that we are going to need to continually improve our models with actual on-the-ground measurements, and we need to show the private sector that we're willing to pay for it in some case. Otherwise, we won't get the technology at all.
Yeah. Yes, so I think I'm speaking on behalf of India. We have already signed the agreement with the Global Dairy Platform, and we are trying to make the sector net zero by 2050. That is the commitment we have made. Internally, we have set the target for 2047 to become net zero, because we will be achieving 100 years of our independence. What we have started doing is, as he told, maybe measuring the methane emission at the animal level is easy, and which we have been doing. but the entire value chain, not only the animal, entire value chain or the dairy sector, we have started mapping for the carbon emissions. TERI, which is an Energy and Research Institute, maybe the best in the country what we have. They have already started studying the emissions at different levels. So be it animal, be it the transportation, or the processing plants, or the marketing, value chain. The entire value chain is being studied. Hopefully, we will have the baseline report ready in maximum 6 months or so. And then we are going to target the value chain into different, we will break that into different sectors, and then we will try to target the reduction. As I told, we are also working on, at animal level, I already explained what we do. I think what he told, taking the principle forward, since we have the largest number of animal, we have also started working on producing more from the fewer animals. And there we are doing a lot of productivity enhancement initiatives. For example, reducing the number of male cows. So we have this sex-sorted semen developed by NDDB. We have a cultural problem. We can't kill the cows. It's legally not allowed. So reducing the number of male is maybe much more beneficial for the farmers, and that will also reduce the number. We have also gone for genomic chips, for example, also for the National Digital Livestock Mission. All these initiatives, along with the various nutrition and health initiative, I think we are trying to reduce the emission at the animal level. And then, as I told, the processing and the marketing value chain is also being studied. And our internal target, we are very hopeful that we will achieve by 2047 net zero in the sector.
Yeah. In my view, you describe a very important point, and I see that there's not a yes or no, but both approaches are very important. We need to set baseline on the knowledge that we have currently, and we need to improve efficiency on farm, and we can by using modern practices, by benchmarking. It's all on animal health, it's on feeding, and it's on manure management. That's the major important points that we see right now, and still in highly developed countries where we see a lot of innovation potential still. And on the other hand, as you say, we need to analyze strongly and see and accept the complexity of livestock and the complexity of also the costs and the benefits of livestock. It's on biodiversity, it's on so many other points where we see the importance, and where we have to understand better the short-lived gases versus the stock gases, and make understand that livestock remains in the cornerstone of circular economy. And I strongly believe that strong advocacy for keeping livestock as being a solution in terms of instead of a threat needs to be strongly messaged out to the world. Thank you.
Just to make a comment on that not going deep in the subject, but I think that we have to align these measurements with the national inventory, because whatever we do there to reduce to animal health, anything that, but if the country do not use that in the national inventory, the country will still be emitting and being blamed by livestock. So we have to have these conversations together.
That's
and
why
the new LEAP guideline, and the new LEAP guideline that will be launched is about the use this in the national inventory. I think we will help to pave this way to this conversation.
That's why we included the federal office, the federal institute, the Thünen Institute of our government into our system. So they were part in the development of the system in order to make use of the data and include them not at the first stage, but at a later stage in their national inventories. I fully agree with you. It's one of the cornerstones. Measuring and just being better, but not showing anybody or not being able to show that to the world has no use. Thank you.
Nigoro, do you have any comments?
Yeah, we have a different story on the, mitigating of the climate change in terms of the livestock system. So what we do, because we have 17,000 islands in Indonesia, and then we have the potential of resources of the palm oil plantations and some crops like I mentioned before of the pineapples, one of the biggest plantation of the pineapples located in Indonesia. So what we do we are looking for the integration between the crop plantation crops and then the cattle inside of the crop plantation. So the manures can be the fertilizer for the crops itself, and then the cattle can get some the waste, the biomass waste as the feed for the cattle.
Cool. Thank you. Michael's a very important question. I know this is about Livestock Week, but the importance of measuring soil carbon, given the lifespan that soil carbon takes to build up as well as quickly degrade, is a critical part of that. You have a question in the far corner?
Are you listening?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. My name is Rogério. I'm working for GASO, Global Agenda for Sustainable Livestock. And we have been evaluating silvopastoral systems since more than 20 years. And we already know the benefits in terms of biodiversity, carbon sequestration, animal welfare, resilience, etc. But also, as I am working in Brazil, we published a paper demonstrate the difficulty to implement silvopastoral systems in Brazil. And my question is, especially for Bruno or the others, is there a way that you can think that the implementation should receive efforts from the government, or some ideas that we can implement this in large scale? Because we need to scale up, and we have several difficulties. And you already have a work with Tuning Institute as well that demonstrates this positive effect. So Bruno, could you help us in some alternatives to improve that? I'm saying silvopastoral systems means trees, grass, shrubs, and animal together. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Roger, for the question. Well, ideas, we can have a lot of ideas here, but I think in terms of public policies, we have to, I think that the most feasible idea that we can use it, I'm talking to Brazil, and I think that the others could talk by their countries. Our main public policy is to loan money to the farmers in a cheap way, in the cheap money with low interest rate. So I think that is more feasible to us to give incentives to the farmers to implement these systems and reduce the interest rate in Brazil, or is talking about public policy that is in the hand of the government. And I think that one thing that we are not exploring so much as we should, is the private policies, to create private protocols that can make this incentive reach the farmers, to create this, to implement this kind of systems. Because, as you said, this in ecosystem services, in biodiversity, it's the best one. So if I understood correctly your question, and I think that this is the idea that came to my mind right now.
Cool. Thank you. We had one last question at the back.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Elena, and I work at the Brazilian Confederation of Agriculture and Livestock. And my question is for everyone, because given the Brazil's tropical context, how can we advance internationally recognizing carbon measurement methodologies that reflects this tropical reality of Brazil, but also that are understandable for the farmers, because they are key to introduce and to make these measurements viable?
Well, I can start. I fully agree with you. That's one of the cornerstones, also where we concentrated on. You can make it scientific effort to develop a carbon measurement tool where you have to go with experts to the farmer and like measure each and every plug and whatever. But then you don't win the farmer. You need to concentrate on the core priorities, keep them aligned with the GHG protocol, which is easily feasible by linking primary data that are really important with secondary data that you use from databases in order to make it digestible for farmers, but to make it also differentiatable. And in this regard, I also, again, you need to understand how like efforts are benefiting also their productivity. And then you are able to really getting forward.
I'll just add one point, just to strengthen your point. I think farmers among all of us are the brightest of the people. And unless they know that there is something for me in my hand financially, whatever we talk and whatever we advise will be of no use. So best thing which we have learned in the manure management initiative, for example, is that we need to convince them that you will have an additional income from whatever advice we are giving, and we will have to prove that he is now getting higher income. I think that is the most important part of these initiatives. Thank you.
Your question is very challenging in Indonesia. You know, as I mentioned before, that the needs or the supply of the meat and the dairy industry in Indonesia only can cover 16% of our protein industries from the meat, and then mostly our proteins coming from the poultry and then the fisheries. So what we do for the farmers, we are integrating all of the activities, and then we promote like capacity building to the farmers, how they can calculate easily if they do like a combination integration between the kettle's livestock to the palm oil plantation, so we can reduce such amount of the certain level of the CO2 footprint. And then the second thing, thanks to the FAO, recently we are submitting the proposal for GEF, Global Environmental Facilities, H. Hopefully we can run the project as soon as possible, because our plan is to integrate LIPS models, LIPS methodology, and GLIMS, work with the people, and to promote how we can have a very good, supply chains with can reduce the can reduce the carbon footprint and have a good mitigation for the climate change. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. We have time for one last question, so.
Okay, good morning all. Thanks for the presentation, very enlightening. Luke Cipriano from the WRO. I have one question for the panel. Well, when we consider oil like gasoline or diesel, the burden goes to the country that burns the oil. Well, why livestock is different? Why the share that exported, part of the burden goes to importing country? Then we create a very good tool to incentivize the exporting countries to lower the emission by evaluating this product. Do you know why the burden stays in the producing country and not to the importing country?
Who wants that one?
Sure, I'll take a whack at it. The reality is if we only look at export as a driver of emissions reductions, we're not going to get anywhere. The reality is we have to, the scale at which we need to be reducing emissions from the livestock industry is much larger than I think anyone really baselines and really thinks about on a regular basis. And I'm really grateful to have worked for some really incredible organizations and governments that have really tried to drive forward as hard as possible and set that ambition. But the reality is if everyone's not on board, we're nowhere close. And so anything that happens to minimize the overall responsibility beyond each individual nation, I think we're just going to fall short. And so we need to keep that ambition high. It's everyone's responsibility. We all appreciate and enjoy and benefit from this industry and livestock production as a whole, and it's all of our responsibilities to ensure that we can reduce the emissions from that so we can continue to do so. And so, by limiting that and setting that index on the export markets themselves, then we've lost the majority of the industry.
All said. Right, so I'd like to wrap up this panel session. Thank you for your questions. That was fantastic. I think from what I've heard, a lot of this is around, obviously with FAO and there's global conversations, but a lot of the success of the innovations lie in the farm with farmers and inside the farm gate. And so things that we've heard is about being tailored for local systems, is around the importance of packages of information and innovations, around product diversity and the use of circular bioeconomies, and thinking about livestock and livestock farmers and growers as part of a much bigger system. The connections with cooperatives and other businesses across the value chain, and building trust with customers, because ultimately customers buy the products that farmers produce, and ultimately it's about providing value for the farmer, because if we don't have farmers that are profitable and productive, then we don't have a sustainable livestock sector anyway. So the innovations that get developed and what we've heard from the early pitches is really about thinking about how farmers can take those into their own business, adopt for the good of all of us. So again, I'd like to thank my panel, fantastic contributions, and to all of you for your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter, for being such an excellent chair, and thank you to all of our speakers for your insights as well. And I'm really glad that there was a lot of interaction with the audience. Next, we have a keynote address on drivers and enablers of scaling innovations. And it is my pleasure to welcome Ido Dror, Program Leader for Impact at Scale at the International Livestock Research Institute in Ethiopia. Now, Ido is also the lead for Portfolio Practice Change in the CGIAR Portfolio Performance Unit. Ido?
Good morning. It truly is a pleasure to be here today with you and to address this plenary. Is there a slide deck that's going to magically appear on the screen? Do I need to do something for that?
I'm sorry.
Sorry?
Just give us a second.
Okay, so they're trying to figure out where my presentation went. So let me take this moment and actually express a lot of gratitude. It's really great to be here today in this fantastic hall. My 35-year-ago self dreamt of working for the UN and working in international development. So being here in a plenary room of FAO and addressing you all is really like a dream come true. And so, believe in your dreams, do what you like, and maybe one day you find yourself living them out. And it's really cool. I asked my colleague to take a photo later on. My daughter is 16 and dreams of playing in the Model UN in her school this year. Maybe playing is in the right word. So it's very, very great to be able to share such experiences with them. I wonder how long I should wait, or whether I should speak without the presentation. but the visuals would really be helpful because some of these things aren't super intuitive. So maybe let's give it another second and see if they find the presentation. It'll be there in 1 minute, so. Oh, super. Great. So the topic of my presentation today is drivers and enablers for scaling innovations, and also the subtitle actually matters because we have a lot of proven innovations, innovations that on their own we know that they work, but are they being translated into actual pathways that move the needle? That's a little bit what I'll talk about. To start with, maybe that's blatantly obvious to everyone, why scaling matters. But I'll say a few words about that anyway, especially because when I joined ILRI about 15 years ago, scaling was not a word that we used. In fact, scaling was even seen a little bit as a mission drift. We are not an NGO, we do research. And so to have research organizations today understand that doing great research is still our core mission, but we have to do that with the end in mind. And the end is that for those innovations to get off the proverbial shelf and actually move us towards impact. And the gap, as I say, is not only technical. Typically our innovations are actually technically very, very sound. But it's everything around it. The demand, the enabling conditions, the access to finance. Those are the things that aren't always in place, and without them, we just don't scale or don't scale effectively. So how do we do that? Well, there are many ways to do that, and there are many frameworks, but I'm going to walk you through very briefly, and I'm very glad I don't have to describe this without a visual aid. So the scaling readiness approach is a structured and evidence-driven approach that helps us take innovations along an impact pathway. So we start with the actual core innovation, and sometimes it's a bundle of a few technical innovations coming together. And there we want to know, is it actually working? Can we find a place, a country, a context where that actually makes sense? And if we do, we say, okay, great, at the first level, that's the first stage gate, yeah, it works. The technology actually works. The second one is looking at it at the package level. And when we say the package, that's when we talk about all of these enabling conditions. So it can be, do we have the right policy environment? Do we have the right financing solutions? Do we have the right ecosystem, partnerships, etc., to help drive this to scale? And if that's in place, and that needs to be done very context specifically, so the same innovation in two different countries, even in two neighboring countries, could have completely different scores. Yeah? So it's important to understand the context for this. But assuming that it is, then the next level is the impact readiness, and that's where we get into actually optimizing, looking at scaling strategies, looking at what would it take to take this from whatever scale it is to actually national, regional, global scale. And doing so while thinking of the trade-offs and the consequences, intended and unintended, is very, very important in this process so that we first do no harm. In terms of our approach to do that, we do a lot of hand-holding and supporting and technical assistance with a lot of our teams to make sure that we strengthen their capacity, not only to work within these scaling methodologies, and I've shown one, the scaling readiness, or we have a very catching name for it, IPSR, Innovation Packages and Scaling Readiness, but also others like Gender Up, Scaling Scan, and others. But more and more, we spend a lot of time working on responsible scaling and looking at how whatever we do is inclusive and responsible and does not harm as a prerequisite for really taking something to scale. We also have a lot of scaling champions embedded. We've trained internally within our CGIAR network, over 100 people to be able to follow these processes, guide their other colleagues, you know, stay embedded in their teams and help them take things forward. And then we also do a lot of work through catalyzing, scaling funds, because people respond to incentives, and a lot of times offering people a little bit of money and offering a little bit of support along with that goes a very, very long way. So those are things that we are doing quite regularly with quite some success. I want to take one example because, well, first of all, this can be very abstract otherwise, but also because yesterday we heard a lot in the plenary about PPR, PPR eradication, how important that is. So we do have a recent strategy, scaling strategy that was done for PPR eradication, and if you come and see us at the ILRI booth later on today, we'll be happy to share that with you, or you can get in touch in whatever way suits you. But how does that work? So we're looking at, you know, starting from selecting the innovations and then looking at how do you actually develop a strategy? What are the data that's needed? Who are the stakeholders that need to buy into this and co-create this? Then it's about, you know, how do you get that? It takes a lot of effort. Some of that can be done remotely, and we're actually looking at AI-driven models to help us cut the time and automate a lot of these. But a lot of this requires real buy-in. And for real buy-in, you need to get people in a room, and you need to facilitate that process in the right way. So all of that takes place before you can finally land on these things. And it's not just from like the technical, you know, vet perspective of PPR eradication. It's also about what does that do for the economy? What does that do for jobs? What does that do for sustainability? So all of these things need to get looked at. So again, if you'd like to know more, I would be very happy to share that with you so that you see how that's done in practice. Another thing is about strategic alliances. So there's no one single organization that can do all of these things on its own. And so in the scaling domain, a recent advancement on that is what we call the Scaling Coalition, currently composed out of 5 organizations, but 5 archetype organizations. That is to say that, you know, each one represent others in the sector, and growing it is part of the plan. But for now, it includes our host here, the FAO, the World Bank Group, GIZ, the Gates Foundation, and the CGIAR. And as you can see from that pie chart, we actually look at strength and complementary areas where we can come together to move the needle in a better way. And one of the key goals is that we try to focus on things that none of us can do alone, but that together we might be able to move the needle on in a more serious way. So for instance, this year we're looking at capacity development, community engagement, and data interoperability, innovation data interoperability, which is actually a pretty big deal. Imagine if like all of the FAO data, all of the CG data, all of the World Bank data, all of if we can have that interoperable. Interoperable does not mean identical. We could still have different formats, but having a so-called Rosetta Stone so that you can take all of these databases and say, that means this in our language. And suddenly you have a much, much greater ability to do all of these things. So that's very cool. It links into something that the FAO will be launching, I think, in a couple of weeks, the ATO database, which really works on standards, interoperability, and we're very happy to work with them to unleash that and to bring that to life. Very briefly, as I get closer to concluding, 5 drivers that we've applied in a new Scaling for Impact program at CGIAR. So we think all of them are important. That's why these locks, they work together. They're not an isolation thing. Engage and empower and get a lot of demand intelligence before you go out with supply side solutions. Really look at what the demand is telling you. Identifying the pathways to scale. That's again about looking at the innovation, pulling them together, bundling them properly. Looking at the enabling environment is the third one. This includes policy, but goes much beyond that. Catalyzing impact is really where you work, especially with international financial institutions and the private sector, to take the things that we know work in the context we know they can work and really take them to scale. That's where a lot of the visible impact comes to bear. And finally, learning for impact. You know, there's constant need for us to understand these things better, to have quicker and better feedback loops, and also focus on capacity of the sector as a whole. A few things of what different actors can do, funders and implementers can do right now. So, well, first of all, we can have more funding into this. That never hurts. So, but doing it in a smart way. So demand-led portfolio management that actually tracks readiness and use and gives us better value and impact and value for money in these things. Then we could also require that context-specific information, including cost on delivery and their strategies, is demanded much earlier in the process. So we don't fund things that actually don't have a good ramp and a pathway to impact. Budget for intermediation. Livestock is much more complicated than other forms of agriculture. It requires intermediation, brokers, champions, etc. That needs to be funded. That's not like an afterthought. Back enabling environment fixes, policies, markets. Let's fix where things aren't working, not just hope that, you know, they will still continue and thrive in the absence of these critical enablers. And finally, we need more funding to go into this, including blended finance instruments, instruments that can help de-risking the scale-up, bringing in non-traditional actors. All of that will play a role in making that happen. And finally, looking ahead. So, I mean, for us as CGIAR, this 5 years we've just started, this cycle emphasizes scaling as core to our portfolio. For the first time, we have a dedicated program on scaling, the Scaling for Impact program. And it's not a tokenism. It's the second largest program within our portfolio. So we are taking this very, very seriously. And we really look forward to collaborating with others. So if you want to know more or engage on that, please do come and see us. The Scaling Coalition, which I've mentioned, which opens a lot of doors for sectoral collaboration. And we'd love to have more organizations join hands on that if you are interested and if you work on that. We also want to look at things like, as I've mentioned, you know, data interoperability, pooling together different types of portfolios so that we can have a shared impact which is much, much greater. Emphasizing again that it will require both core innovation, technical innovation, but also that it will require a lot of deliberate scaling systems. These things don't just like jump off the proverbial shelf. They need the system, and there needs to be a culture, an organizational culture that enables that to move forward. And finally, scaling innovations is never about a single solution. It's never the silver bullet on its own. It's about pathways, partnerships, and portfolios. And with that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ido, for those comments, and also thank you again for your patience with the technical glitch earlier in your presentation. Now, we're now going to be following this keynote speech with the panel discussion on scaling technological innovations with insights and successes from all over the world. And we're talking about, you know, Asia and Africa to Europe and Latin America. And for this session, I'm honored to have as chair Her Excellency Varsha Joshi, Additional Secretary at the Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying from India. May I request Her Excellency to come on the stage to chair the session. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to the panel discussion on the subject that has been so beautifully brought out by our keynote speaker already, how to sustainably scale innovations which happen in the lab and bring them down till the farmer. And we have a very distinguished panel, and I'll be inviting them one by one. We first have David Kenny, Head of the Animal and Bioscience Research Department in Teagask in Ireland. Welcome. David is an accomplished researcher and leader in the application of bioscience to underpin sustainable ruminant livestock production. He specializes in the development of innovative pasture-based livestock management systems. He's coordinator of the Horizon Europe-funded Research and Innovation Action Step Up. And together with his colleagues, he's working to advance the development of sustainable livestock management practices and enhance productivity, while at the same time support improved environmental stewardship and animal welfare, ultimately contributing to more resilient food systems and rural development in Europe and beyond. I would also like to invite Gianni Motta, who's the Head of Innovation, National Meat Institute, Instituto Nacional de Carne, from Uruguay. A forward-thinking leader in meat industry innovation, he focuses on developing sustainable production methods, improving product quality, and integrating technology. His work supports market competitiveness, environmental responsibility, and value chain efficiency, driving growth and sustainability within Uruguay's meat sector. I would also like to welcome Murat Sartas, Chief Scaling and Impact Officer, Asia Pacific Association of Agricultural Research Institutions, APARI, from Turkey. An expert in scaling agricultural innovations and building capabilities of organizations and teams to scale, he leads in efforts to develop AI-driven scaling support systems, enhance innovation and scaling collaborations, and technology adoption across the Asia-Pacific region. His work promotes sustainable agricultural development, capacity building, and inclusive growth to strengthen food systems and rural livelihoods. I also welcome Ismail Sila, CEO and founder of Beta Clinic from Mauritania. An innovative entrepreneur and CEO, he specializes in driving digital solutions and technology adoption to transform agriculture and related sectors. His work focuses on fostering sustainable development, enhancing market access, and empowering communities through technology-driven initiatives in Mauritania and beyond. I also welcome Yang Jinsong, Deputy Director, National Animal Husbandry Service from China. A dedicated expert in animal husbandry and livestock management, he focuses on improving animal health, productivity, and sustainable farming practices. His work supports policy development, capacity building, and modernization efforts to strengthen China's livestock sector and ensure food security. And finally, I welcome on the dais David Nicol, Vice President, Sustainability and Business Solutions from DSM Firmenich. Dr. David Nicol is a senior executive with 30 years experience and leadership in global business, innovation, and sustainability in the worldwide aquaculture and animal protein industries. He has a highly successful, proven track record of innovation, value creation, and business transformation across global enterprises, driving adoption of scalable nutritional programs and technologies to improve the sustainability and economics of aquaculture and animal production. So now that our panel is complete, we can start off with our questions. And I hope we'll have some time left over in the end for more questions from the audience. First, I'd like to address my first question to David Kenny, who has coordinated the Step Up project. So David, what are the aims of the Step Up project which you coordinate, and how will it contribute towards greater innovation and improve sustainability of European livestock production systems?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and good morning, everybody. And I'm delighted to be here this morning to speak to you and give you some insights from our work, mainly as part of the Step Up, the Horizon Europe Step Up funded project. So maybe just to give a little bit of context or background to the actual project itself. Step Up, it's a research and innovation action. So again, research will say, and innovation is I suppose, to the core of the project overall. It's a 4-year project funded through Horizon Europe with some co-funding from UKRI. And the project commenced last year, January last year, so we're about 18 months or so into the project. So a lot done, but an awful lot more to do over the coming years. And it involves 16 partners, 10 RPOs, and 6 industry representative bodies across 10 European countries. So I suppose the context of the project was born from a requirement from the European Commission, and specifically we'll say DG Agri, for quantitative and qualitative monetized evidence of the social and economic and environmental impacts of and externalities of different livestock production systems, and how these, I suppose, serve the requirements of different food systems, whether they be short supply, circular or market-orientated systems, as well as the trade-offs and the synergies assessed at farm and at landscape levels. And again, we were tasked also to examine these within the context of the different levels of intensity, whether that be intensive production systems right through to organic-based systems and across all the major livestock animal-based systems. So not an easy task overall. So why do we need this information? Well, research, I think we'll all agree that research and innovation is essential for ensuring a more sustainable and resilient livestock production system globally. Indeed, the livestock sector plays a vital and economic role within the EU, representing millions of farms, contributing significantly to agricultural production. The livestock sector, and we heard this yesterday, would say contributes about 40% of overall European agricultural output. It also obviously would say plays a core role in food security and supporting rural vitality. However, in recent years, the number of livestock farms has reduced dramatically. Indeed, there's been an almost 50% reduction over the past decade in the number of livestock farms within Europe. And farmers are confronted with several challenges which make the transition to a more sustainable and competitive livestock system increasingly complex. We've heard many times during this conference so far of the demand that we're all tasked with to increase, would say, I suppose, food production overall to meet a global increase in the global population. And obviously, increasing sustainability and vitality and viability and the resilience of climate-friendly agricultural production, is one of the key objectives of the EU Farm to Fork strategy, and his approach is wholly consistent with the 4 betters, would say, outlined by the FAO. As I mentioned already, we are presented with many challenges, and again, I'll just maybe briefly outline some of the specific objectives of the Step Up project. So in order, as I say, to address many of these challenges, the overall objective of Step Up is to provide policymakers with robust evidence base on the impacts and externalities and their monetized values. And that's a clear and, I suppose, core tenet of our project, is that we have to monetize, would say, all of the outputs there so that they're measurable and objective, and obviously that provides solid evidence then, would say, to I suppose, hopefully to scale up, would say, within the context of the key stakeholders. And we will, through that, we will achieve this through the next couple of following approaches. Firstly, thoroughly investigate both the positive and negative impacts and externalities and their monetization, and identify potential trade-offs across diverse farming systems and practices throughout the continent of Europe, essentially. So that's absolutely key. We need to know what we know, firstly, before we can attempt to improve that. The project will build on a wide range of scientific information, reports, expert opinions, and practitioner knowledge that's already available. So that has been recently completed now, a major synthesis, we'll say, of existing knowledge. And to align, I suppose, these challenges, would say, to the sustainability and future development of livestock systems, we're also conscious, would say, of planetary boundaries. And as a consequence, in the concept of the safe and just operating space, which is a relatively new concept in terms of its application to agriculture and certainly to livestock production, it will be, again, would say, employed within the project. And we'll align that, we'll say, within the scale of EU livestock production systems. The socioeconomic dimension, is embedded throughout the work programme, and it's a research topic throughout inclusion and social life cycle assessment. Again, very, very important from the point of view of measuring, we'll say, the impacts and externalities, and also, we'll say, employing, we'll say, stakeholder engagement within all of our work, essentially. And ideally then just to identify the data gaps, as I say, and finally, mostly in relation, we'll say, to this particular topic, we're working with about 20 innovative production systems, mainly farmer-based production systems throughout Europe, where we hope to learn, we'll say, from their unique selling points, essentially, to monetize, and conduct, I suppose, thorough analysis, we'll say, in terms of their production system, and try to learn from that and potentially scale it up, we'll say, both at local and national level, using, we'll say, the technologies that we're employing within the project. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So what do you think are the main challenges when it comes to bringing academic research down to practical application and ensure that there's adoption happening at scale? And what makes it difficult and what makes it easier?
Yeah, I think, while scientific research, it provides the foundation for the evidence-based, I suppose, policy decisions that we all, deal with. The complexity of scientific findings often, I suppose, it's difficult to translate them, into actionable policies, and that's often where it falls down. And scientists often present, I suppose, solutions designed almost in idyllic conditions where policymakers must navigate political, economic and social constraints, we'll say, within their I suppose, modus operandi. And again, I suppose the suitability of innovations to local geographic, environmental constraints, as well as to the farmer's own knowledge base and resources is very, very important. So we must tailor solutions to what the farmer can, I suppose, essentially utilise and exactly. And again, as I say, the practical application, is to know, I suppose, the level that you're dealing with at the first. So that requires, obviously, we'll say, co-design essentially of the projects with the key stakeholders, and farmers being the primary producers, and the starting point essentially. And then it's important then to be able to try to essentially plug in that information, into, I suppose, the socioeconomic, we'll say, entry point, more or less, we'll say, into the system. So in other words, to take what's known and to be able to apply that at a level that's amenable to the audience, essentially, we'll say, or the constituency that you're dealing with. It's really important as an integrated approach, we'll say, between obviously scientists, policymakers ultimately who will help to drive, the innovations as well, and obviously the key stakeholders. And, equally, we often talk about, I suppose, scientists, policymakers, and, the ultimate users, which would be farmers. But there are a myriad of other actors in between. So the multi-actor approach is really, really important. For example, from a livestock perspective, people like vets who may be visiting farms every day, cooperative, we'll say, personnel, essentially, who are selling, inputs to farmers, and so many more others, peer-to-peer discussion groups. We find that in Ireland has been an extremely useful way of getting, I suppose, new technology adoption, and essentially the trust that's there between peers, essentially, is much greater than we can maybe appreciate, we'll say, by a top-down approach, essentially. So, really, overall, I think once, and again using the, I suppose, the well-established ACIS, we'll say, the Agricultural Knowledge and Innovation System, I think that's a really good platform, and countless European funded projects, we'll say, have shown, we'll say, the efficacy of that, we'll say, in terms of, ensuring that nobody's left behind, essentially, that all of the main actors, we'll say, are involved in that co-design of, a particular project or innovation, particularly if you want to scale it up, we'll say, beyond, a living lab, essentially. And I mentioned the living labs. Again, that's another, I suppose, technology that we use very effectively in Ireland, where we engage with all of the main players within the system, essentially, to ensure that everybody's on the one page. And I think you got a flavour of that from the presentation from one of my colleagues there this morning, the AgNav system, again, which is born, from, very, I suppose, in-depth discussions between all the main players, we'll say, within the livestock and greater agricultural sector within the country. And ultimately, I suppose, just to finish, the importance that the science isn't lost in the scaling up. So while we need to, I suppose, simplify the message as much as possible and make it amenable to practical implementation, we must make sure that that it's still based in science, and that the science is allowed to bear through, in everything that we do, and that will ultimately, give a good, strong foundation, we'd say, for future development. So thank you.
Thank you. So science is a thread that pulls everything together, but you can't get things on the ground if you don't co-design with the people whom it's for. Thank you so much, David. Now moving to Gianni. Given INAC's unique private-public structure, how does the organization effectively drive livestock innovation, accelerate the scaling adoption of new technologies?
Well, thank you very much for the question, and it's quite interesting question, but I have to go back a little bit of what INAC is and what Uruguay is and what livestock means to Uruguay. So Uruguay it's a livestock country. We have much more animals than people. And most of our natural resources are natural grasslands. So the main source of income of our country is livestock. If you look at vertically, it's around 10% of our GDP. And this is very important for our country. And the role of INAC, it's to represent all farmers, all the packing plants, and the government. And we all sit together in a discussion table to discuss and act in public policy in what should be done to take actions in the gaps and the bottlenecks that are limiting the increasing productivity. So it's a term basically also in importance in time. So what's urgent, what's important, and the long-term actions that you have to do. And all this is discussed between all stakeholders and the government. So let me put two examples of how we scale up and how we do things. So the first thing is we do public goods. Public goods are for all, and all farmers, and all packers, and levels up the plane of market competition and market access. We are an export country, and we're always looking for the world to give the best product and the best market access, and also to provide the best price for the farmers. And with this, we have to secure some public goods. And to give you an example of this is the new EUDR regulation. So the new EUDR regulations place limits to products that come to Europe that has to be free of deforestation, and this has to be proven. So small farmers might not be able to do all the affidavits and buy satellite mapping and let's say make a contract with someone that make all this information available because it's a small farmer. So small farmers have difficulties to access to these markets that gives you better prices and better productivity. And market access was discussed yesterday as a key role to improve productivity and improve equity and improve the margins of the farmers. So what we did is to create a public good that is free and accessible to all farmers, all packers, because packers has to get that information. And we use it basically using our traceability systems of livestock. So the farmer doesn't know today that all this information is flowing, all to the chain up to the importer. So all this information it's gathered, and the importer just asks for the information, and the government is the one that secures this information. So this is a great innovation, and we use already existing systems, and we improve them. We just added new layers of complexity to secure that all farmers and all packers can access the best price that they can get to be more equal plane of competition. This is one type of innovation that we do. But also we go through specific public policies. For example, also for small farmers that we know specifically that are the ones that are fighting for resilience, and they have difficulties to improve productivity. And as an example, the biggest technological gap is in the small farmers. And in Uruguay, what we see is that very mature technologies that are already in use by middle-sized and big farmers are not being used by small farmers. So this also gives a big problem for them, because it's not they just have small scale farms, they have a very low income per hectare. So it's a double problem. So this specific public policy goes through helping farmers to get access, not just for the technology, but how to use it. Because sometimes the problem is that the technology is available, they take it and they use it wrong, and it's a double problem because they have already invested, they use it wrong, and they have bad results. So you have to have technical support. And this project that today it's for 1,000 farmers, and we are investing $4 million a year to helping those farmers, are specifically to get technical support to the farmers, so agronomists and farmers, but not also helping them to introduce these technologies, but also to measure, because we have to measure to find those increases in productivity. And for the future, what we would like is that as one farmer does one thing, we know that the neighbor will copy, because we are always looking at the neighbor and what he's doing and why he's doing things and why he's doing things right. So farmers and neighbors start to collaborate with each other, and this gets some good spillovers over the chains, and that's how we are going to improve the productivity of our smallholders.
Thank you. That was a lot to learn from, I think. I'd love to look more into how you've got about doing this. But I have another question for you, that would you like to talk about any unexpected human or logistical challenges which are the most difficult for you to quantify and overcome? You mentioned about how difficult it is to reach the small farmer and the solution you've given for that, but anything else you'd like to share?
Well, yes, the measure, it's very complicated. So regarding public goods, for example, measure the impact and the good impact that a public good exists is very difficult, because we don't have a counterfact. Everybody access to this technology or advancements. So as we don't have a counterfact, it's very difficult to measure that improvement. But we can see our neighbors, countries that don't have those public goods, and how we get those better prices, get better market access, and also national recognition. Knowing that we are a serious country, it's very important for the importers and also for the countries, because they have to have secure borders for diseases and so on. So it's very difficult to measure the impact of those public goods, but in the long term you see it. And specifically for farmers and the innovation that we try to apply, that's why we set up the goal for small farmers to measure and get that information from them, because as we do it, and the professionals are going to do this, we know how good is the impact of supporting those small farmers, that in general in our country, they are not the ones that have the most amount of livestock, but they have a very important social role in our country, because they are the ones that have the cow-calf systems. And without calves, the rest of the chains cannot improve. So we don't have rearing, and you wouldn't have feedlots, and packing plants wouldn't have enough production to export.
Thank you. I'd say that not having a counterfact is actually one of the better problems to have. Yeah, but that's, one has to find a solution for that. But measuring, well, at least you'll always know if the farmer is happy and things are getting better. That's the first thing that one looks for. Thank you so much. I now turn to Murat Sartas. Mr. Sartas, you're the Chief Scaling and Impact Officer. So your title fits perfectly in this panel discussion. Please tell us how APARI works in scaling up agricultural innovations.
Thank you very much, ma'am. First of all, I would like to thank for the opportunity for the FAO colleagues to invite us, because APARI is an organization that is there to support the grassroots. It supports the national systems, it supports the ministries and the colleagues which do the hard work at the implementation level. It's based in Thailand. I'm originally from Turkey, but the APARI headquarters in Thailand, and my team is based in Malaysia. So I'm the Chief Scaling and Impact Officer. What that title is, one of the initial learnings we did was that actually a lot of our colleagues in the national systems do scaling, but they don't know it is actually scaling. They use different names. They call dissemination. They call it engagement. It's a very important part of scaling, and they are not aware of scaling. And what happens is that if they are not aware of scaling, although they do a lot of work, they cannot get the necessary investment and benefit in the national systems. So what we thought that really to support the Asian agenda and Pacific agenda, and if you look at the statistics, for example, the largest consumer of meat and actually largest producer across livestock is China. India is the largest number of producers, also the milk. The numbers, we are not as good as Uruguay or Paraguay yet, but in Asia, numbers are improving. But then who does it and then how it benefits the grassroots? So one thing we do and comes to the APARI is to understand, to make it clear that actually scaling is more than just management decisions. It's more than just statistics, but it's actually something they do on the ground. And then when we came as a new team, actually I joined APARI recently, and then what we wanted to do is how we can add the maximum value. We need to do more with less, and there are already existing organizations. And of course, again, the same APARI pitch. In national systems, there are a lot of organizations mandated for scaling. It doesn't have to be only international. There are organizations in scaling. So we made a consultation process with them and made a survey. And what we realized, actually, there are a few key demands coming from the national systems for scaling, from the ministries, for research organizations. The first was the scaling management capability. What that mean? What does that mean? There are a lot of innovations. Ido mentioned multiple solutions, and our colleague from Ireland also mentioned. So how to navigate and understand which one of those innovations can work better for which country and which region. That is indeed a scaling management field. So what we realize is that the capabilities of the national organizations to manage the scaling is not strong. So the first demand from our team was that, okay, let's improve the scaling capability of the organizations. And when we looked at actually what is the things that we can do most, the first one is that to look their portfolio, to analyze it from a scaling professional perspective, and show them that actually they do a lot of scaling activities. Either they don't call it scaling, or they are a bit segregated. So we share the learning about state-of-the-art, how to manage scaling. Ido mentioned scaling readiness approach, for example. It's one of the very good systems used by CGIAR. Or FAO have the Science Technology Innovation Portal, and the Innovation Unit have some capabilities. Other international capabilities, that is the science of scaling. So we first try to share the learning for the national organizations to operationalize that. So what is scaling? Actually, how scaling can be measured? Actually, I would like to, debate with Gianni a little bit that I don't think measurement is difficult anymore. And that is part of the work and demand that comes to our work as well. We have that notion that measurement of scaling is difficult and livestock is a complex system. And it will take a lot of effort to understand, but not really. There are smart ways, especially AI-supported ways to measure quickly, cheap, and provide feedback very short time. So what we are doing, we're trying to share those learnings, share the many systems or the indicators they can track so that they can see if scaling is going in advancing or not, or why. So we are providing them a bit of, how to manage the intelligence, how to collect data, and what are the smart ways of measuring scaling. The other needs come for APARI that is a lot. So we talk a lot about AI. I think everybody is, talking about AI. But when we look at the AI, we perceive AI as a technology. It's not only a technology. So what we want to do, and actually started to do it already, to make colleagues use AI independently. Use of AI is more important than developing AI. particularly our member states, which are low and middle income countries, they have limited resources. When they hear AI or when they see a fund, international fund coming for AI, they immediately want to develop a technology. That is not the most impactful way to benefit the countries. The best thing about AI is to make it useful for the national systems. Use it for their existing workflows in the ministry. Use it for existing ecosystem management. Use it for existing businesses. It's about use. It's not about developing technologies. We have the leaders in the region, China to a certain extent, India and Malaysia developing AI technologies. That's really beautiful, but the real impact comes through its use. So what we are doing is working with the ministries and understand how they work now, who does what, how the knowledge flows, where the money goes, what are the challenges in operationalizing, writing funding projects, and so on. And we try to see which part of these dots AI can help. So what we do is we analyze the workflows, and we analyze the AI tools that can address their concerns, and what we call, and create a human elevating AI capacity, so that our colleagues in the national systems can use AI more and more to do their job better. It's not about using a better technology coming from somewhere else, but it's about using AI for their own. So what we try to do is indeed also build their AI capabilities. There are a few others, but I will be happy to share later.
I think there's a lesson in scaling right there. So first you have to see what you already have in hand, recognize its value, and actually use it at scale. So that's a big lesson for all of us. But still, I'd like to ask you, would you like to walk us through a particular case in which you were able to scale a specific solution from research all the way to regional or nationwide adoption?
The scaling work is not that long-term enough to see the effect in the APARI because as we've seen, all the scaling processes takes a lot of time, but we see the early signals of success. What we see is about, as I said, APARI focused not on the technologies, but the ways of innovations to make those technologies work better. And then one part of it is actually creating organizational innovations, not policies, organizational innovations. Policies are, of course, important. So we are working on organizational innovations and trying to understand the strengths of our members. For example, India is a leader in frugal technologies. So if you want to build scaling capabilities within the region, so how are we going to learn Indian experience? Or Thailand is personally, I'm also learning more, but one of the best or most successful countries in the world for packaging and the servicing different agricultural products, including meat. Or Vietnam has a significant learning and capability in frugal machinery. They build a skeleton of machine and it works. You go to farm, everybody can fix it without larger investments. So what we do, and we see initial success, we try to understand the locally grown innovations that works in the Asian context particularly, and how we can create bridges for it used to be, in this case, for the other countries, and also helping them to recognize their strengths, which is actually not published enough or not showcased enough internationally. And then I think I will leave it there for the questions, but what we try to do is really discover what is there and then already use it, as you mentioned. That's our success strategy.
Thank you so much. Now turning to Ismail Silla. Please tell us about what technology and innovation your company produces, and what do you think are the most critical factors for a startup or company to consider when planning to scale its technology, all the way from proof of concept to market-ready product?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question, and also thank you for the FAO for the opportunity to be here. So yeah, I'm from Mauritania, BetaClick, our tech startup from Mauritania. So Mauritania is a West African country in the Sahel region, mostly a livestock country. We are about 5 million people, but 30 million of livestock in Mauritania. And our livestock system, it is pretty different from most of Western countries because it's an extensive livestock system, meaning that the animals are moving around inside the country, but also between the country with a lot of challenges related to animal moving, health challenges. So basically what we are developed, it's an integrated platform which use technology like electronic identification using RFID, GPS tracking, so some IoT devices in order to create value among existing value chains. So we diffuse these technologies in order to strengthen existing workflow. For example, enabling access to vet services. It's a quite big challenges because some herders are located in remote areas, and also they are using the data collected and the animal identification in order to enhance animal productivity and in the sustainable way, also reduce production losses. Our strategy is based on fact that if we want that this solution be sustainable, we need to bundle it inside existing services that herders are demanding, and also connect these services to existing value chains like animal trades and also milk trade. So about the scaling, the first step is most about adoption. We need to create an added value that can create an perceived impact for the herders, because we worked at the grassroots level. From that, when the herders adopt these technologies, we can think about scaling. We want, since the herders, the beneficiaries, adopt the technology, they perceived the value added, it will be more easier. The adoption will come naturally. So yeah, we are operating mainly in Mauritania, but also since our livestock system, there is no borders for our animals in West Africa. So we also are working in Senegal, Ivory Coast, Niger, as well in Mauritania. So we need to integrate all of these factors. So the transboundary issues, it's a very big challenges. So yeah, that's how we do it.
That's very interesting, navigating an atmosphere not only of the herders themselves, but also of different countries being involved. So what do you think are the most critical roles that different stakeholders like investors, partners, and early customers and governments play in scaling up a technology? And this is an interesting question that I have to ask. At what point do you think it is most strategic to seek external investment?
Okay, thank you. So yeah, the role of the stakeholders, what we did is to involve stakeholders according to the stage, the maturity of the project. At the first step, we work closely. We have partnership with a herder organization in order to, also in terms of cost efficiency, we need them to be empowered and have the ownership of the technology, because they are very, very efficient in order to deploy solutions, to build communities. So it's not our field. So we focus ourselves in building the technology, enhancing it. And after that, the second step is we have lots of partners in financial, not private equity partners, but also in development organizations like FAO, AFD in France, World Bank, for example, in Senegal, we work with the World Bank. They finance pilot projects, and at the end of the pilot project when the farmer communities have the ownership of the solution, and we can then put this opportunity, this momentum in connection to the market, because when the market is here, the animal, we have the traceability, we have the proof that these animals are traceable, the product, we can certify the origin of these animals, therefore we create the market opportunity. And it is when we can call in for private investor, like private investor, to bring some money like VCs and so on.
Great, thank you. I would now like to turn to Yang Jin Song from China. So the National Animal Husbandry Service of China is a state-owned organization that disseminates and promotes best technologies across China. Given the rapid pace of technological change in China, how does the organization prioritize which innovations to scale up, balancing cutting-edge research with the practical needs of China's vast and diverse farming regions?
谢谢部长女士的提问。首先呢，我想感谢FAO 的邀请，同时呢，我跟大家一样，也祝愿呢我们大会能够圆满成功，而且呢，今后呢来办 N 多次的大会，今年呢是第2次。部长女士的提问呢，也正是我想跟大家分享的。在正式回答这个问题之前呢，我想用6句话来介绍一下中国的畜牧业。第一句话呢，就是中国畜牧业的养殖主体多。目前呢，在农业农村部备案的养殖户呢，大概是有72.87万个养殖场户。第二句话呢，就是产量大。2024年呢，中国的肉类总产量呢已经达到了9780万吨，鸡蛋的产量呢达到了3558万吨，牛奶的产量呢达到了4079万吨。而且呢，饲料的产量，也是跃居世界第一，是达到了3.15亿吨。2023年，猪肉呢占世界的46.5%，羊肉呢占世界的28%，鸡蛋呢占世界的33.6%，禽肉呢占全世界禽肉产量的17.8%。这4个呢都是稳居全国第一的。而且呢，第3个话呢，就是中国的肉类消费多。2023年呢，中国的肉类占世界人口呢是17.5%，但是肉类消费呢就占到了全世界肉类消费的27.4%。这是第3句话。第4句话呢，就是中国的畜牧业在发展过程中呢，更加重视质量安全。历年呢，到目前我们各个畜种畜产品的质量安全水平呢是不断在提高，全国的抽检合格率呢始终保持在95%以上。第5句话呢，就是我们更加注重绿色发展。去年呢，我们的粪污资源利用化率呢是达到了79.4%。这对于减少温室气体的排放呢，应该说起的非常重要的作用。另外呢，对于双碳的目标也发挥了重要的作用。第6句话呢，就是我们更加重视农牧民的发展。我们要通过发展畜牧业生产，要实现农牧民的生活富裕。这是6句话对于中国畜牧业情况的介绍。另外，我还想补充一句话，就是中国有句成语叫"猪粮安天下"，也就是说呢，猪多了，粮食多了，世界呢就是和平了、太平了。这是我对中国畜牧业整体情况的介绍。现在呢，我正式回答部长女士的提问。我觉得可能从6个方面来说吧。第一个方面呢，就是中国的政府高度重视呢。农业技术的推广工作，这是不仅包括畜牧业，在种植业、在渔业、在农业机械化方面，也都有相关的机构来做这个工作。农业农村部总共有6个技术的推广单位，而且呢，每年呢我们都筛选 主推技术和主推品种向呢全国农牧民来公布。在这个过程中呢，这种技术和品种是知识和技术，同时呢，我们还公布一些信息，包括生产信息，包括畜产品的价格信息，就是通过知识、技术和信息来这个推广和引导这个农牧民，从事这个畜牧业生产。在主推技术的筛选方面呢，我们非常重视，就是代表畜牧业发展方向的，比如说刚才这位先生提到的这个 AI， 包括我们现在在推广这个比如说蛋鸡养殖的这个智能巡检的机器人等等方面，包括在设施畜牧业方面，我们在推广这个楼房养猪，这是代表这个行业发展方向的。第二个方面呢，就是提高育种和养殖效率的这个技术，这个呢是在中国来说是农民迫切需要的。第三个方面呢，就是绿色发展的，比如说刚才我提到的这个分污资源化利用的，比如说这个养殖业的节粮行动，这个有助于这个减少氮的排放。第四个方面呢，就是解决农牧民困难的这个技术。前一阶段呢，我们中国这个养牛的这个农牧民呢，这个养殖的效益是比较低下的，处于亏损的状态。我们呢就推广这个体脂增效的这个技术，这是我想这个第一个方面，就是中国政府高度重视。第二个方面呢，就是我们全国畜牧总站有我们自己的特别的优势、独特的优势。我们呢充分掌握这个畜牧业的各类的主体的信息，也对产业的实际需求呢也是充分了解。我们单位呢跟这个全国上千家的这个畜牧业生产的主体，包括养殖企业，包括饲料生产企业，包括分污治理的企业等等吧，这个全产业链的这个企业有近千家，包括育种企业有近千家，我们都有联系。而且我们服务的企业呢，在全国呢达到了这个3万多家，这呢使我们呢对于产业的转型急需哪些配套的技术，然后这个技术落地有哪些困难和堵点，我们单位呢也都是非常了解的。第三个特点呢，就是我们单位这个与全中国的这个科研机构、大专院校，也就是说创新的主体，都有这个深度的这种合作和联系。我们单位有很多这个机构，比如说这个全国的畜牧业标准化委员会、全国的饲料工业委员会、全国的畜禽资源委员会、全国的饲料和饲料添加剂评审委员会等等，这个都在我们单位，秘书处都在我们单位。这使得我们单位呢与全国畜牧业相关的科学家这个有着最广泛的联系，对于他们的创新技术呢，我们也是十分了解。除了科学家以外呢，在中国还有这个，比如说畜牧兽医的学会、畜牧兽业协会，还有呢畜牧业的各个畜种的产业体系，我们跟他们呢也都保持深度的合作，这使得我们呢能够围绕这个关键的核心技术来集成配套，形成呢具有科学性和实用性的就是综合的这个解决方案。第四个呢，第四个呢，就是说在技术推广方面，我们呢不是一个单位来进行推广，我们在全国呢有这个省市县乡有这么4级的，还有4级的这个农业畜牧技术的这个推广体系，在全中国呢这个各级的畜牧技术推广机构呢能达到这个2.8万家，从业人员呢有将近这个15万人，而且我们的县乡一级呢是直接这个为农牧民和中小户这个来服务的，他们呢对这个农牧民和中小户的实际需求和技术发展呢有这个精准的把握，所以在我们遴选主推技术和主推品种的时候呢，我们也充分这个听取他们的意见，这样呢这个打通这个技术落地的最后1公里。第5个呢，就是我们充分利用信息化的手段。在我们单位呢有一个全国的畜牧业生产信息的直联直报的一个系统，在全国呢有40万个这个固定的监测点，这个其中呢就覆盖了18万个规模养殖场，4280个奶站，就是收牛奶的奶站， 还有8000多个呢这个种畜禽的这个企业。我们这个系统呢，年采集的数据呢，大概有6000多万条，能够呢发布这个6大畜种的这个生产的信息，这个包括价格的周报，包括生产的月报，通过这些信息呢，来引导这个畜牧业从业者来科学的安排生产。第6个呢，就是我们在这一过程中呢，对中国养殖区域这个复杂的实际情况呢，就是我们注重的多样化的服务需求。除了传统的培训课堂、养殖技术推广以外，我们非常重视这个社交媒体这个的作用。我们通过社交媒体呢，发布这个养殖这个新的技术，通过网络平台呢，这个发布新的技术。有力的促进了就是各种畜牧技术和知识在全国的推广，让不同地区，尤其是偏远山区的这个养殖主体呢，能够快速的获取他们需要的这个技术。这就是我的分享。
That was a very encyclopedic response, and the numbers are, of course, mind-boggling, as they would always be from China. But in the end, it's still about listening to the farmer, from what I gather, and eventually delivering what the farmer needs. That is still the underlying aim of the organization. Could you share with us a recent successful technology dissemination from your organization? What was the measurable impact of the initiative?
非常感谢您的提问。这个我们单位呢，从1982年成立，这个推广了很多畜牧业的实用技术。随着畜牧业的发展呢，就是在不同的阶段，我们主推呢不同的这个技术。在当前呢，根据中国的情况，从2018年开始呢，我们一直在主推这个畜牧业的低豆粕，就是饲用的豆粕减量替代、绿色发展和养殖业节粮这么一个技术。大家都知道，中国是一个人口大国，这个土地又非常稀少，这个粮食对于我们来说非常重要。应该我们不仅是要在人类这个粮食方面呢保证粮食安全，在畜牧业方面呢也要保证畜牧业的这个粮食安全。在中国呢，就是饲用的粮食占比已经超过了50%，超过了这个人类的口粮，超过了工业用粮。所以呢，饲用粮食的节粮对于我们来说呢也非常重要。在饲用粮食当中呢，占比最大的呢就是饲用的这个豆粕。所以18年呢，我们提出来要通过体脂增效、开源增料来统筹呢植物、动物还有微生物这个蛋白资源的利用。通过呢提效，通过开源，通过调整养殖业结构来这个引导养殖业呢减少这个豆粕的用量，促进饲料粮的节约降耗，保证呢粮食安全。这个方面呢，就是成功的举措呢，我认为我们有3个方面的这个成功举措。第一个呢，主要是提效节粮，这里有这么几点。第一个呢，就是我们要做到精准营养、精准加工和精准饲喂。我们呢联合中国饲料工业委员会这个标准化委员饲料工业协会，这个制定和实施了生猪的、肉鸡的、蛋鸡的、草鱼等7种这个养殖动物的低蛋白、低豆粕、多元化日粮的这个技术，制定了相关的这个国家标准，这个和团体的标准。这是提效的一个方面。提效的第2个方面呢，就是我们持续开展饲料原料的这种营养价值的这个评定。我们完成了就是132种畜禽常用的饲料原料的这个营养价值这个评定，同时呢，大力推广国内和国外的这种饲料的配方软件，通过这个精细化的这种配方来这个促进这个养殖业这个节粮。另外呢，在推广技术方面呢，我们通过培训，包括说我们刚才说到的利用这种多媒体平台，开展这个大讲堂等等活动吧，促进这个养殖业节粮。用一个数据来说，这个节粮的这个提效节粮的这个效果，就是在中国前34家这个100万吨规模的饲料集团， 这34家这个集团呢，占到中国的50%饲料产量的56%。我们呢抓住这个重点，推行呢低蛋白、低豆粕的这个饲料配方。2024年呢，平均豆粕的用量是11.5%，这个比全行业呢已经低了2.2个百分点。这是从提效节粮这个方面。第二个呢，就是从开源节粮，就是我们充分利用这个替代蛋白资源，拓宽的，就是蛋白资源的这个蛋白资源的来源。昨天加急的同事这个也说到了，他在中国利用这个生产白酒的这个废料，我们呢叫酒糟，这个呢在我们国内呢也已经利用了。另外呢，在昆虫蛋白，在这个食物加工的废弃物，包括果渣、包括甘蔗尾梢等等，这个我们也作为饲料原料来开展利用，就是充分的利用它们的蛋白。另外呢，我们还非常重视技术创新，应该说呢，我们这个引导和支持乙醇缩菌蛋白，它的生产，它是我们国家最近新批的这个饲料原料，乙醇缩菌蛋白，包括荚膜甲基球菌蛋白等等，就是利用这个一碳气体生产这个蛋白原料。目前呢，这个产能呢现在大概达到3万吨吧，这个也有力的这个开拓了饲料来源，所以说也是我们开源的一个重要的组成部分。这是第二个方面。第三个方面呢，就是我们调整养殖结构这方面。我们大力发展呢草食畜牧业，提高优质饲草的供给能力，通过增加牧草的这个供给呢，来节约粮食。我们有一个项目，在我们站里头大力推广，就是发展这个清楚的玉米，另外一个苜蓿等优质饲草。这个就是青草和粮改饲这个项目呢，对于这个增草节粮、以草代粮，也发挥了非常重要的作用。另外呢，我们还支持这个规模化的牛场、羊场来收储这个饲草。目前呢，这个牛羊养殖的饲草量、营养供给呢，效率提高了近40%，能够节约呢，促进饲料来节粮的大概是900万吨，这个也是我们一个成效吧，就是通过提效，通过开源，通过调结构，我们节约粮食的效果，非常这个见成效。用具体的数据来说呢，就是从这个豆粕减量替代行动实施以来呢，饲料中豆粕的用量占比呢，已经从2017年最高点，那个时候的豆粕用量在饲料当中呢占比是17.9%，到去年呢，我们整个豆粕的用量已经占比就是降到了13.7%，相当于节约豆粕呢是2000万吨。应该说呢，豆粕的使用量从当时最高的7000万吨，就是2000年的时候是饲料中豆粕用量大概是7000万吨，到去年呢，我们已经下降到了6480万吨。应该说，我认为呢，这个也是我们非常有成效的一个推广的案例。当然了，我们这个推广的成功案例很多，不止这一个，还有像这个肉牛、奶牛这个纾困当中，这个很多有成效的，包括肉牛养殖当中的这个延长这个产业链，然后通过开发地缘饲料来就是为这个肉牛生产节本降耗，这些呢都是很多成功的。下一步呢，我们向这个各个兄弟国家呢学习你们的先进经验，在畜牧业技术推广方面呢，我们就要继续加大力度。谢谢。
Thank you for an amazingly detailed answer. There was a lot to learn from there. It's not easy to change farming practices on the ground at a mass scale in a very short time, and I think you've achieved great success in that. Thank you so much. I now turn to Dr. David Nicol. Please tell us how DSM Firmenich, as an international company, supports the sustainable livestock transformation with your technological innovation.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Well, first and foremost, as a company, we see sustainability as business. It is one of the same, and a more efficient farming process is a more profitable process. So a lot of what we do is about improving productivity, efficiencies, and making sure we're measuring that with the right level of data to be making that much more visible to the farmer, where and how to act, where to make the changes possible, and what that means in the whole value chain. And so we work along the whole value chain from the agronomy side through feed manufacturing, animal production, down all the way through to the CPG, consumer packaged goods and retail part of the business of the value chain. And that's really important that you're joining this all up. So we try to get people out of their business verticals and think a little bit more systemic or ecosystem as such. And taking that approach, you unlock a lot more value. Often the different players are a little bit blinkered in terms of where they believe the value is. Actually, sustainability opens up the mind to a lot of players. And we see that whether that's, again, access to sustainable financing, whether it's being much more in tune with your customers, the downstream of the retail, in terms of what they're wanting, or the big branded companies, but also from a farm productivity perspective and understanding where is best practice and where to make those improvements. As a company, we work across probably 6 key platforms which are really important for sustainable agriculture across all species value chains. We look at how we help reduce the incidence of AMR, antimicrobial resistance, through the shift away from antibiotic use, through to how we're tackling resource issues, marine resources, for example. If you look at the good example of the Veramaris business, tackling the omega-3 issue, which the world faces, through to emissions reduction, and whether that's methane reduction through a sort of world-class technology like Bovaer, but not just methane, but we also classify in their emissions from nitrogen. Nitrogen and phosphorus, two very, very big problems. Sometimes nitrogen too much of a good thing in some parts of the world. And how do we tackle that in terms of the drive towards low protein diets and what have you? The other topics we focus in on are things like resource circularity. You heard a little bit about that today, reducing the reliance on some of the big crops. It's interesting, 70% of the world's soy is going into animal feed, and considering the huge demand for animal protein going forwards, some estimates of a 70% increase by 2050, you're going to have to get much more out of less. And so we focus heavily on how we can upgrade raw materials, feed raw materials, which perhaps weren't looked at in the past, through the likes of the latest enzyme technology, feed enzyme technology in biotech. But not just that, combining that with gut health and the absorptive capacity of the gut and the ability for the animal to get the most out of the feed. At the same time, we look at very much extending the lifespan on farm, so keeping a dairy cow on farm longer. An older cow produces more milk, instead of having to bring in heifers and replacements. And that in itself, of course, is a much more sustainable practice. Tackling some of these stubborn, production disorders, matching nutrition to the life cycle and the life stage of the animal. And at the same time, we also look at improving the inherent quality of meat, milk, fish, and eggs. And it's interesting, the amount of food, we talk about farming and productivity and what have you, but the amount of food that's wasted, and it's usually because of shelf life, and that can be very, very simply improved by improving the vitamin levels in the food. We know that it's well-proven science, extending shelf life by days, weeks in some instances. And these are very simple measures that can be implemented. It doesn't mean a huge change in the farming infrastructure. There's no massive capital cost, and it's about focusing in on precision nutrition, and that's the name of our business. Now, as I said, at the same time, it's very important about measurement. We've heard a lot about that today. We've invested heavily in the whole transition into more digital farming. That's really the new currency: data insights, respecting the topic of data sensitivities, of course. Many people think they're sitting on gold with their data. They're sitting, if they're lucky, on a bit of gold dust. It's not like that. You need to take that data and turn it into valuable insights. And those insights lead to value creation. If you want to go and get a sustainable financing from the major banks, you need to have your own primary data in place, understanding your footprint, not just your carbon footprint, but in fact your full footprint, your water footprint, for example, and beyond. And so it's really about understanding what's going on there. If you do get on top of that data, and I think we heard from one of the earlier speakers, it's not a problem. The data is there, and it's scalable. And that's exactly what we do. We work at a very large scale. We work with partners. You don't do this on your own. The advent of more cloud-based computing and the ability to get real-time insights is here and now, and it's available to any form of farming. So it's not like it's just to the most advanced farming systems. Understanding that, you also start to get access to legitimacy, credibility about what you're doing. That opens the door to how you're dealing with, say, your downstream customers. That looks at the type of eco-labeling, the ability to value up. Understanding where best practice is, and that's really interesting. Many farmers think they have hundreds of farms, copy-paste, very similar setup. You start to look into the detail and you find they're quite different. You'll have a cohort of those farms which are really good, really satisfy the downstream demand for more sustainable produce. And they'll have other farms which are really not in good shape, but they know exactly now where to make those changes and how to do that. I think that's really the big shift that's happening now. It's happening very, very fast. And it's the combination of this precision nutrition with the ability to measure in completeness, not just carbon, because you can be really focused on carbon, but you may increase your water footprint or your nitrogen footprint or what have you. But that's the name of the game, and that's how we operate through the whole value chain.
So it's all about the power of doing small things, adding them up together to make the big picture. It's a lot of patient and work that needs a lot of effort, I would imagine. Once you have the system in place, then everything gets better. That's the impression I'm getting. Thank you. I have another question for you. The valley of death represents a significant hurdle for novel technologies. For private sector companies, what specific strategies are most critical to successfully bridge this gap? What are the key requirements for achieving widespread market implementation and sustainable growth?
Yeah, that's a good question. It occupies many companies, of course, how to jump that gap. And I think it's not just one thing, of course. There's a number of things you need to be aware of. Speed is really important for a company like ourselves. You've probably heard the term fail fast. There's a lot of truth in that. You don't do this on your own. So the idea that you somehow have all the people, all the competence and knowledge in-house is really a fallacy. You absolutely have to work with partners. And it's surprising the type of partnerships you actually need to develop, which perhaps sometimes are beyond what you initially thought. So partnerships are very important. Working and listening to the marketplace. And it really depends on the type of technology you're developing. So if you're looking at say, a sort of molecular development or feed additives, then that's a very different and rather slower process. Obviously, there's a regulatory process you have to take into consideration. You work strongly with universities and science-based institutions. That's very important to get that scientific agreement and understanding. Again, it speeds things up. If you look at things like the digital space, that's a much faster area of innovation. There we're typically working on a two-week sprint exercise. It's very quick. You're listening all the time, and I think that's a really important point, is that often we don't listen enough. You have a great idea and you run with it, but you don't stop to listen. In the whole digital area of innovation, you cannot do digital innovation without listening, and you have these very quick sprints of about 2 weeks, and something's changed. You're asking customers, what do you like, what don't you like? Does it fit with the bigger ecosystem? And that's really important. So you get to the important thing is to get to a minimum viable product as fast as you can. and then test it, right? You're never going to be perfect. It'll never be perfect. But get into the market as fast as you can and test. And you'll have some of your preferred go-to companies that can help you test that really fast. But you must also make sure you broaden the appeal. So I think those are the key things. That builds confidence. We bring in partners often, particularly in the most transformational innovation. Again, you're de-risking. And some of those partners have much more expertise in certain parts of that business than we would have. So it's a combination of all those factors, and that proves to be very successful.
Thank you so much. So we now, it's time to wind up now. I think it's been a totally fascinating, so much learning in a short session, a very packed one, I would imagine. I hope everyone also found it equally interesting and educative. We started with David Kenny, who told us about how you have to co-design with the farmers if you want the right things to be decided and the right things to be scaled up. We had Gianni Motta, who told us how a mechanism in which everyone has a voice and everyone is able to put their thoughts forward brings the best solutions for the entire country as a whole. We had Murad from Apari, who told us about how it's possible to learn from one country and how to apply those learnings in other countries. We had Ismail, who has done things on the ground himself. Being an entrepreneur is really the bottom line here, and working across all the systems to make his solution scale. That was very fascinating. At the other end of scale, we had young Jin Song, who is running probably one of the largest animal husbandry services across the world, and how it is possible, even in such a huge scale, to ensure that every farmer's interest is protected and the most efficient solutions are brought to his doorstep. And finally, we had Dr. David, who told us how one can work with data, and the entire power of data is brought to ensure that every farm is more successful in its aims. So I will thank you all for this very, very fascinating session. And I think we all are taking very interesting thoughts back to our countries and how to implement them. Thank you.
Can I ask you to Thank you, Your Excellency and the panelists for this fascinating discussion. Can I ask you to just remain seated while I make some final announcements? Now, we're going on a lunch break, but I'd like to just tell you about two side events which are starting in a few minutes. Side event 1 is on biosecurity for sustainable livestock transformation and how it's a shared responsibility to achieve impact at scale. That's going to be in the Sheikh Zayed Center. Now, side event 2 in Iran Room is on today's leaders, tomorrow's success, youth leadership in sustainable livestock. I hope you have a fantastic meal, and I hope you'll be back here for the next plenary session, which will start at 2 o'clock sharp. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.